Hello guys, welcome to a new video. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell. To ensure you don't miss the upcoming videos, let's commence. What if Naruto was a true prodigy with hidden powers inside him? What if Naruto was a true prodigy with hidden powers inside him? Naruto was 3 years old. He was hiding in a corner, holding a scroll. With a horrified expression on his tear-stained face, Naruto held the scroll in his arms. Naruto was out of breath. He coughed up blood on the ground as his speech failed him. He wanted the young man to run away from the man on top of him. Danzo stepped on Sarutobi to overcome him, then slowly walked towards Naruto. He took his hand. "Give me that scroll, and your death will be painless." Naruto was scared, his body frozen against the wall, his small hands and fingers gripping the scroll fiercely out of fear. Danzo raised his sword again and glared at him. "Give it to me or die. I will make you suffer alone, the true Namikaze." Naruto closed his eyes tightly, ensuring that no demon would take it. Danzo twisted his blade, severing Naruto's arm. Naruto fell to the ground, still clutching the scroll, as his arm was already beginning to heal. He looked in horror as Danzo approached to take another piece. With a weak smile and dull eyes, Naruto glanced at Sarutobi. Before a sudden blue flash erupted around him and vanished, Sarutobi uttered a word in a desperate attempt to survive. "The final whim with which I could have easily killed the child. I will not tolerate that weakness or stupidity the world is glad to be rid of." Such insufficiencies. Danzo finally went to claim his rightful government, and without him knowing it, Naruto survived, but not in the way he imagined, and he would not find his death in the doors through which he would pass to take over his government because his traitorous actions would cost him his life with Naruto. Naruto was crying alone and scared. When the light suddenly faded, he found himself in a place as different from Konoha as anyone could imagine, with buildings shining and dazzling. The sun's rays illuminated the smaller trees and numerous houses beyond his count, and while he clutched his scroll, he tended to his wound, which had nearly healed. However, a dark red scab, radiating from his shoulder to his elbow, glowed with a piercing sting. As people walked by, Naruto hid in the bushes. He observed a multitude of people walking and conversing, all dressed in strange and unfamiliar clothes. As night fell, he began to walk, hoping to find a familiar place or perhaps a place to eat. He was very hungry. At just 3 years old, Naruto struggled not only to speak but also to understand certain concepts. As he wandered, he discovered a place that smelled delicious. However, upon entering, he was confronted by a group of adults who were yelling and attempting to push him, while a boy was tugging him. Naruto just broke down and hit the man's knee with his shoulder. The boy let go of Naruto, allowing him to grab his knee. Naruto dashed out of the kitchen door, darting between the carts, only to have his arms and legs inadvertently entangled in sausages intended for the customers. Naruto ripped some of the links off his legs and sprinted down the alley as fast as he could, which some adults found difficult to catch. When he saw a high fence, he simply did what he had seen many in his village do since he was out the window. He ran over the fence, grabbed the edge, and jumped. The adult stopped in shock at this turn of events. Naruto didn't even look back. He ran until he entered a park, a place more like his town than the rest of the city he had seen while hiding in the deeper parts of the trees in the area. He simply sat and huffed as he relaxed. He sniffed the sausage on his neck and arms, grabbed a bit, took a small bite, and smiled happily, finally being able to eat. Naruto consumed all the sausages before resting, shedding tears as he gazed at the stars. "Gigi helped me 3 years later." Nargros was laughing after taking a bag of delicacy mixed from a local market. Currently, he was fleeing from some of the chefs in the area who were getting lost due to his speed. As he lost them through the alleys, he sat down, took the parchment he was carrying on his back, left it next to him, and opened the bag of food. He sighed while having some cheese. "It's fun to run away from those guys, but I need this more than those snobs who have money." In 3 years, he had learned a lot. He had found people reading in the park, and he had seen where they got the books from. His Gigi had always shown him books as a child, so he could learn to speak and understand. Naruto grabbed some easily and started to teach himself, feeling like others he wanted to talk to just pulled and pushed him like he was a bad person. Because he wanted to be helped while he was eating, he noticed that his scroll had disappeared. He was taken aback and pulled away. Looking around, where is it? What happened? He saw a shadow of himself, with someone holding it on the ground in front of him. He looked up to see a giant man dressed in green. The man with long blonde hair, holding it and smiling, chuckled. Naruto stood up. He leaped to his feet and turned to face the man. "That's mine, old man. It's not something you can use, and it was given to me by someone important. So, give it back to me." The old man smiled and twirled it around his finger. "If you want it, come get it. Let's see if you can pursue me for something." "I want the old man." The old man vanished behind the wall, and Naruto sprinted away from it before sprinting up and leaping to the opposite side to catch a glimpse of him down the alley. Naruto ran as fast as he could, but as soon as he was about to grab the old man, he fell on his chest halfway. The old man had moved and was at the end of the alley next to him. Naruto groaned and chased him again. The old man gazed at Naruto, amazed by his extraordinary speed for his age. He was caught, then disappeared from sight. This time, Naruto is back. Behind him, in a different direction, when Naruto got up and ran again, he said he had exhausted the boy for his mistake. Naruto had incredible stamina for a good 2 hours, jumping from one end of the alley to the other, watching Naruto continue forward almost without tiring. After the 3rd hour, Naruto finally stumbled and fell to his knees in front of the old man. As he huffed and caught his breath, the old man took a step forward. "You know how it feels when someone steals your belongings, doesn't it?" Naruto stood up abruptly. Naruto looked at the old man as if he cared. "I don't have money or clean and stylish clothes, so I should die of hunger. Gigi told me to survive like this. I will survive now. Give me back my scroll." Naruto stood up and began to hit and kick the old man's legs. He was not going to get anywhere there were, but he still fought to get his scroll back. The old man was amazed at his impressive speed, ungodly stamina, and fighting spirit, worth admiring with a fierce determination. To begin with, he saw in the boy everything he was when he was young. He chuckled and put his free hand on Naruto's head. "What is your name, boy?" "Naruto," he snorted and stopped. He looked at the man. "It's Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. It's like you're old." When Naruto grabbed a scroll and held it away from him, the old man returned it. In front of Naruto, he kneeled. "But I do, and the name is not old. It's Hayato Furinji. What would you say if I told you that I could give you a home, food and shelter, clean clothes, a place to live, and a chance to bathe?" Naruto snorted. "You're lying. No one has given me a home. Why would you?" Hayato smiled more and extended his hand. "I promise you the truth, and I offer you a home because I see in you what I was like when I was a child. What do you say?" Naruto was skeptical. No one ever offered him help. Instead, they would yell at him and scold him for running away or engaging in such behavior. Whatever he had to admit, he was tired of stealing and having to run for his life. It was hard work, and he hated hurting people. The only thing he enjoyed was the exercise, making sure he had the ability to survive from those who tried to harm him. After a few minutes, and seeing the warmth of the old man in front of him, he decided to try. He lowered his guard and accepted the offered hand, saying, "It's okay, but you better not lie." Hayato nodded. "I am being honest." "Come on, there are some individuals I would like you to meet. I have a granddaughter who is your age and would be delighted to make a new friend. Additionally, I have some friends who are kind and strong, like myself." Naruto, still in disbelief, hummed. However, when they approached a young girl who had the same long blonde hair and long bangs as the old man, he had to admit that she looked cute and realized that she had something in common with him. She observed a training session in the midst of a fight, and upon noticing a cat toy badge, she turned around and pouted at the elderly man. "Gigi, you're late again. You said you'd be back hours ago, and who is she?" She noticed Naruto, but what else? The old man noticed it was all about him and taught him to see all the details of all the people he meets, whether friends or enemies. He could see their dirty clothes and his dirty face. He assumed that he was an orphan who was just hanging around. He saw their eyes, although dull from lack of good sleep. They were bright. Full of determination, his body presented with fear as if he were anxious for something bad to happen, but also toned as if he had some kind of athletic ability. Besides all that, he noticed the whisker marks on his cheeks. Despite the rational part of his mind questioning if the whisker marks were real or just trash, he suddenly shifted into Kitten appreciation mode. As he stood up in energetic surprise, he began to touch the whisker marks, and his eyes glowed with excitement. Naruto was taken aback by the sudden outburst, but he ignored her when she began to play with his cheeks. As he walked away, he rubbed his cheeks. "Oh, how cute," he exclaimed. "Okay, stop doing that, it's my face. Take care of it." The old man laughed at Mew. "I discovered someone in need of a home, and I thought we could return to our house with the others before we set out on our journey. His name is Naruto Uzumaki." Hayato took a closer look at Naruto. "This is my granddaughter, Mew Furinji. Mew Furinji has a fondness for kittens, and it has come to my attention that you have whiskers on your cheeks, a feature that reminds me of either dirt or a birthmark." Naruto pouted, "It's my face. They've been there since my birth, or so I think. I didn't get my face dirty before I saw them. I would know if they were just dirt." "Nice to meet you, Naruto. I hope we can be friends." Hayato looked back, laughing. "You have a good spirit. Even if you are rude, sometimes I can tell just by seeing myself in you. After all, come, let's go back to the dojo." Naruto was confused by this. A dojo for a home was surprising, but seeing them both in traditional clothing and Mew with a J made some kind of sense. But it was still strange while the trio headed to the dojo. Naruto was impressed by Milu and the old man's love and care for each other. When they passed by a pet store, she expressed a strong desire for a kitten, but he declined, explaining that they needed to travel around the world and return home to give Naruto a place to live. Naruto felt their warmth and carefree attitudes, which made him relax. Naruto felt safe and was finally able to relax and let his guard down when the trio arrived at the dojo and the home of Milu and Naoto. Naruto was impressed by the home's large, high walls, which bore a striking resemblance to his birthplace, steeped in Texas tradition. As they approached the door, Naruto was taken aback by its size, it dwarfed any door he had seen in books. Naoto gazed at Naruto, saying, "Here we are, ready to meet the rest of our family. They may not be family as relatives, but they are family in our hearts." As a true family member, Naruto should read the sign above the door, Ryozaku. The old man chuckled briefly before responding, explaining that it signifies a place where we, as strong and ambitious individuals, come together to practice martial arts to their fullest potential. If you're willing and eager, you can learn from me and the others here about our exceptional martial arts skills, leading a life as a true warrior and an honor fighter. Naruto was confused by this. He saw people practicing how to fight and everything, and he read that martial arts meant the art of life or death to some. He wondered what it meant to the old man he was with and his granddaughter when the old man knocked on the door. Naruto interpreted the old man's attempt to open the door with a single finger as a playful gesture. The old man was playing with him or trying to be macho. Naruto had to admit that the old man was big and very tough looking, so he could be pushed off of him, but to his surprise, when his mouth fell to the ground, the doors didn't open smoothly. However, they broke wide open as if each door were a rubber band, pulling very hard. Mew laughed at this, saying, "I still have it. Gigi, you need to teach me how to do it. I can't move it." The two started to enter, and Naruto was stunned to see how strong the old man was. It was impressive. Naruto even tried to move the doors after they started walking to see if they were trick doors, but found out that they were real and heavy. When the call came, Naruto swiftly followed, spotting two men and a young woman within the vast dojo. One man stood in front of the woman, while the other, clutching a camera, drooled. The old man seized the man in the green robe by the head and hoisted him up, snatching the camera. "I'm sorry, sensei, but I don't have any unclean pictures for you." The old man confused Naruto when he smashed the film out of the camera and returned it to him, leaving the man crying for his lost film. "What's wrong with pictures?" Kasei glanced at the boy before returning to his work. His tears had stopped and he wondered, who could this be? "Ayato, surely you're not thinking about us training children the way you are with me?" Ayato laughed a little, rubbing his beard. "Not now, but soon, he will require medical treatment. He needs a place to sleep and a good bed tonight after dinner. Once he is back on a healthy diet, he will be able to start training." Ken hummed as he gazed at the boy, then turned his attention back to the fight unfolding before him and resumed his conversation. "I don't think training a child is a good idea. This is especially true given that the last individual we trained was a failure." The old man looked at Kasei. "I told you he had a darkness inside him. You trained him even after I told you it wasn't going to end. Well, now I suggest you train a young man, and you refuse. It seems like you want to train but ignore my advice." Sensei sighed deeply, grabbing his hat and lowering him. He really wanted to leave the training without disciples until the stench of his last disciple's failure disappeared, but ignoring the old man's warnings got them into that mess, so if they followed his advice now it would be a success. He asked. The boy seemed tremendously athletic for his age. When the fight in front of him stopped, he saw the man with some tears in his clothes and snorting. He saw the woman breathing hard, but through her nose, trying to keep her breathing constant while her arm and leg seemed numb and immobile, all his weight on one leg and his eyes in his working hand. The kunai was on the ground, as were some small weapons like the nunchaku and even a ball, and chain. Sensei took a step forward. "I think that this is over. Akasum. We have a guest, someone the old man wanted to bring here as a home and to train Naruto." He hadn't heard the whispers before, but he did hear the train. "You must be joking. There is no way he can survive something like that." Upon witnessing the extensive damage, both the man named Akasum and the woman accompanying him expressed a strong desire to avoid learning about their training methods. Both Asakasum and the girl turned their gaze toward Naruto. Asakasum saw the potential in the boy instantly, as did his own. When his teacher saw him, he took a step forward. "For martial arts, the training may be hard, but we would never do anything deadly. We adhere to a lifestyle that involves practicing our moves, training our bodies, and honing our skills in our respective arts to preserve our traditions and the lives of those who wish to learn them. For us, martial arts are not a hobby, but a way of life because it is the art of life that we practice." Naruto blinked, surprised by this. The man told him very strange words. This confused him at first, but he soon understood. The last thing was for life, not for killing. He hummed and crossed his arms, bowing his head. "I'm still not sure about training here, but I guess I could try, but only if the old man tells the truth." Sensei smiled and kneeled in front of the boy. you have a home here. Even if you are not our disciple, we will honor that commitment. Even if it means that our lives are at stake, I promise you. Ayato laughed as he observed everyone getting along well. So far, I believe the introductions are in order. Do you think Akasum took a step forward and looked at the woman after nodding and gesturing for her to come closer? She did so, limping a little with a quick pinch of the arm and a twist of the leg. She turned her limbs as if nothing had happened, everything was normal. Kensei stood in front of the boy. My name is Kensei Ma, and I am the grandmaster of everything Kung Fu and Kenpachino have to do with love and martial arts. I am the one to talk to. Akasum patted his mustache before bowing. I am Akasum Ketsui, a philosophical master of various arts, including the Japanese martial art form of Jiu-Jitsu, as well as other arts like painting and sculpture, and I am always open to questions about history, philosophy, and learning in general. In addition to martial arts, you can talk with me. The woman was silent for a moment. Asum sighed as she looked at Naruto. You can start with your name and age. At least the woman spoke in a low voice, her gaze slightly averted. I am Shigeru Kasaka, a weapons instructor and student. I am 13 years old and am still striving to become a great weapons master. However, I am open to discussing anything related to weapons and stealth with Naruto. Said by all of them because I didn't know about love and I didn't or spoke so strangely, but I accepted. He bowed. I am Naruto Uzumaki, and I am ready to finally have a home. Thank you for your generosity. Ayato looked at Miu Miu. Show her inside, you'll know where there is a free room for her to stay. Give her a tour while the adults talk. Miu agreed, and she dragged Naruto as they left. Akasum took off her shirt, Shigeru grabbed her, he looked at her, and she looked back at him before she finally let him pass. She put away her sword and stepped back on her own. She fought but didn't cut herself. Fortunately, Kensei lowered his hat, indicating that he needed our care and a place to call home. For however long Ayato rubbed his beard, smiling for as long as necessary, I think he would be a great addition to this family. And although he may be rough, I think that good discipline and a place to learn and grow would do him some good. I have a feeling this is where Akasum should be. He turned his gaze to Hayato and the scroll. You know what it is? It's old and tattered and dirty. He must have owned it for a considerable amount of time, but what use does it serve for a young man of his age? And why for so long? Ayato nodded. I agree, it's strange. But he cares deeply about that. He said it was Suji. Someone who appeared to care deeply, whoever it was, must have died or left it alone. We will find out later. Perhaps the unopened scroll holds some answers. Kensei sighed. I suppose he could provide us with answers, but I'm uncertain whether obtaining them from the boy he's attached to will be straightforward. Asami glanced at Miu, who held Naruto in her arms. Oh, regardless of Naruto's past, we must exercise caution. Even if you brought him to us, we can never be too careful when training someone in this gym who knows what he will become. Ayato took a deep breath as he closed his eyes. Failure deeply marked both of them. The man they trained, who had chosen a dark path, was a blow to their souls, and a stain on their martial art. Was aware that the wounds were still fresh, but he did not treat this situation or the child lightly. How did he handle all this? Although I agree that we can never be sure what will happen to those we take in, we can do our best to give them care and treat them with kindness. Even when training becomes challenging, our love for them, our treatment of them, and the way we express our emotions shape who they become. Treating Naruto with care, training him with respect, and maintaining a careful pace will shape him into a great man who will accomplish great things in the future. The two agreed, and Asum smiled. He felt good about this. Even if his former disciple with Kasei failed, this boy had a different look in his eyes, a curious one. He was talking about the life of survival. Obviously, he knew the potential that death had on people. This slightly alarmed him, as the boy's demeanor suggested a deep understanding of death. This reminded him of Gigi, whom the old man had expressed his fondness for. It mattered, it was possible that she would die. And how it was natural or her fear that the child saw a murder was founded, she would have to discover it in some way, regardless of the fact that when Miu finished the tour, Naruto said goodbye to her and the eldest, who said goodbye to everyone and left. She gazed at Naruto with a mixture of worry and sadness. She already missed him while they were doing the tour. He laughed a little and liked the jokes she made about Kens and Akasum that she saw before going around the world. He described them as somewhat rare, yet incredibly kind. When she mentioned, she spoke of their concern for her well-being and the deliciousness of their food. As she walked out the door, she already missed him. Her grandfather looked at her. Don't worry, Miu, you'll be back in a year. You won't go more than a year without visiting him. I promise I found you a good friend. Miu smiled happily and nodded. Thank you, Gigi. He is a very good friend. Please let's come back soon. As he laughed and she smiled, they knew he would be in good hands, and Hayato himself felt good about his future as a martial artist. What he didn't know was that it was his talent, his enthusiasm, and his dark secrets that pushed him to be the future of Ryuzen Paku. Ayato knew that his future would be great, but what he didn't know was how dark the paths in front of him would become, either from future enemies or from the dark secrets that not even Naruto himself knew at age 9. Naruto was moaning a little, exerting a lot of energy from his training. It was the day of actual training after lunchtime, and everything he had been doing was the same thing. I was doing just a few additional exercises plus walking, squatting, running, doing squats in various postures and heights, and most of the time just training the legs. What was new were some techniques, like learning a basic Jujutsu throwing move or some Kempo arm and knife hand attacks. To tell the truth, so far, I was pretty good with the training, but I was frustrated with how they did it. All I had done was hold something heavy for a prolonged period of time and walk in strange ways with only about 3 techniques. Naruto was disappointed that he had not been able to learn any martial arts techniques. Unbeknownst to him, the unconventional approach was laying the groundwork for his future skills. Eventually, he would comprehend its significance and witness the encouraging outcomes. Until then, he remained engrossed in leg workouts without realizing it. Months elapsed, and he reveled in the comforts of a home, complete with delicious meals, cozy beds, and sturdy roofs. The promise of a home filled him with a sense of belonging, despite the teacher's strict housekeeping and training methods. The second day he was here he had a health checkup and discovered that sensei were not only big martial artists, but also very good doctors, healed any recent bone damage, they fixed some sprains in his joints and relaxed his muscles. It took him a week, but his diet was healthy, and his body was no longer slender and thin, but normal, and gaining some muscle. Actually Naruto was a little surprised by a new visitor a few months ago. He would remember her for a while. Rank's daughter 3 months ago. Naruto was sighing, having finished his grappling exercise. Kitten was giving him a little break. The huge jugs shook the ground beneath Naruto, as they were very heavy for him. They only weighed around 20 pounds each, but he never had to do any weight training. While resting, Kensei walked around the training poles and Naruto saw a young girl with bows in her hair dressed in an outfit similar to Kensei's. It was also green. Akasum saw Naruto looking, and he also saw her. Kensei's daughter, Rinka, will be visiting for a while, since he wanted to give her some hands-on training and make sure she is ready to enter the world of martial arts. Naruto hummed and glanced at Rinka, who appeared sad. I don't know why, but it may be due to the fact that his father is here in Japan and his mother is still in China. Having to move due to their parents being in separate places can be difficult. Naruto stood up, twirling his hand while turning it a little. Then why not come back or the mother comes here? Akasum smiled at Naruto, suggesting that if it were that simple, they would have finished it by now. The reasons why he is here are his, and he is welcome to his privacy. We all have our reasons for being here in Ryozaku. And unfortunately, even if we see your story, it is fair to keep my own story a secret too. That made Naruto pout. You may not agree with my decision, but that doesn't mean you can exert pressure on me. He's already finished training. Akasum sighed, but decided to take it easy, particularly with Naruto. Because he was still getting used to his diet as well as his training, a big change in anyone's life needs a smooth integration, not just a rush to adopt a different lifestyle, and he himself did not feel like giving the best training to a child. After his failure with his former disciple, Akasum began to return to the dojo. You will be out of training for the rest of the day, but do not bother Kens and Rinka if they want you to leave them alone. It is still a new experience for her to be here every 2 months. Naruto sat down to rest, never stopping to look at his other sensei. Oh, what was I supposed to call him? Susu. Naruto watched them talk for a while and perform some simple training moves step by step. She is enjoying the benefits of learning real moves. Why didn't I actually know that? He was rushing a little, but he didn't want to have to do meaningless tasks and exercises. He felt as though he was undergoing some form of punishment. He didn't know that the torturous training he would go through later would make him beg for this type of training. With a deep sigh, he relented and watched as Fu and Rinka demonstrated their skills. As soon as he mastered the moves, he seamlessly combined them into a fluid sliding kick, shifting his weight to turn and deliver a back kick to his father before retreating to the stance, tapping the ground with her foot behind her. He paused at that and thought he could do that quite simply. Naruto stored that move later to try to see if Kensei could see her concentrating on the training and turned to Naruto. Naruto, would you be willing to briefly visit this location? I understand that you will be training with Akasum, so you should engage in some activity in the area. Rinka gazed at the individual with whom he was conversing. His father, a scruffy-looking boy, pouted at him. Dad, you promised that we would have time together today. Kensei placed his hand on her head. Rinka, dear, I have time for you today, but I don't see why we can't include one more person in our activities. Rinka's pout intensified as she crossed her arms. Mom is always right. You look for more for Mom, and I can never be enough. What's up with all those people you used to train? Rinka asked. Rinka, it's not the quantity of company you should worry about, but the quality. You are my daughter, and I will always make time to ensure your happiness. Even if one day I must bear the burden of someone you despise, your mother, bless her heart, will always keep me faithful, regardless of what you think. I left to become a better man for a person, not a town. Why should I stay here? Rinka let out a small sigh, glanced at her father with a hint of sadness, and gave him a tight hug. I'm sorry, Dad, please don't be mad at me. I just wanted to spend time with you. Nothing in the way Naruto turned out that he could see he was bothering them. He hated how bad it made him feel. He had to do chores and the kind of training that made his legs numb every night. All he wanted was to do something real, maybe have some fun, but as he knew he wasn't the only one who wanted things to happen, he said goodbye. I will refrain from interfering with you. I apologize for causing you to cry. I was perplexed as to why her presence in the room caused her to weep. However, Naruto was aware that she was sad when he approached, so he decided to explore the dojo and potentially locate Shigure. Shigure had returned to the dojo after a week's absence and had concealed herself, which caused him to become agitated and question her authenticity. How did you know my name? That caused him to halt. Rinka had asked a simple question, but he was surprised that she was even talking to him after she insisted that he leave. Naruto looked away shyly, smiling nervously as he rubbed the back of his neck. Sam sensed your presence and informed me of your name upon your arrival, as he was curious about your identity. Rinka pouted slightly but glanced at her father, who nodded and sighed. Naruto blinked at that, but he smiled, nodded, and gave a small bow. Thank you. Rinka-sensei smiled and started training the two. Seeing their movements match, she knew that one day they would be very strong. As the day went by, Rinka was impressed that Naruto was keeping up the pace. She could see his desire to be better, but like many, she saw his impatience. She could see in his eyes the drive to be better, the need to be stronger, but also the heart to do the right thing. Even if he seemed to want to keep his heart hidden, in his movements, I could see that he was holding back. Even though he was keeping up with his training, which he had finished, Kasei was about to take Rinka home when he turned to Naruto, smiling and promising to train hard, just as my mother had taught me in martial arts. Deserve all its attention and respect. Kensei smiled at his daughter, then turned his gaze to Naruto. While I teach, he deserves your patience, and your trust is the key between master and disciple. Naruto nodded, sensing something in him to complete his training. He knew in his heart that he needed to do everything possible to become stronger, and if that meant going to great lengths to become a martial artist, he was willing to do so with a smile. He nodded. I will do my best. Rinka-chan, blushing at the name, pouted and crossed her arms. You have a long way to go if you want to be my equal, idiot. Just don't take up Dad's precious time with that. He turned and called his dad to leave 10 days before the present. Naruto was sitting with his teachers, or what would be after a long time of waiting. Seeing that they were truly kind and strong people, he thought he would trust them. They made him bring his scroll, and he had it in front of him with a sigh. He left it and looked at the seal that Naruto had. He looked at the three in front of him. This is strange. This is something I know, but I don't know if I think it's correct. That's all. What do I remember about Kensei, Akasum, and this lock? They looked, but they already knew what the lock was. Kasei glanced at Naruto. This lock you're talking about is some kind of seal, he said. This lock, akin to a family mark symbol, serves not so much as to lock the scroll, but rather to keep it trapped. Akasum reached for it, but he stopped and looked at Naruto, who frowned slightly but nodded and took the scroll. Akasum tried to open it and break the seal, but nothing happened. The paper was very thick and resistant, especially for something so big. He was uncertain about its purpose. He made the paper, but he knew the wood around him was oak. When he failed, he gave it to Kasei. The Kino master tried to find a way around it and even had Shigure give him a knife. The knife couldn't cut the seal, it was as solid as a rock and it stuck faster than any type of super glue. I looked at Akasum and said, we should try the blood thing, Shigure. He moved a little and looked down. I think he's the only one who could open it with blood, it's his. After all, both of them were teachers. They both hummed, nodding to each other. They thought it made sense to give him back the scroll. Naruto asked for the knife after receiving it. He grimaced as he made a small cut on his thumb with a trembling hand and wiped the blood from the seal. All of them were surprised. Not really for Naruto, except for it to open in the first place was real, as Kensei and Akasum saw a small cloud of smoke and the seal completely disappeared. Kensei went to get medical supplies while Akasum held Naruto's thumb to stop the bleeding. No more cuts, okay? This was a special case, but you will need proper weapons training before you can wield a real sword. It is irresponsible of us to let them cut you with knives. How could it have been so difficult to open this seal if it was so fragile that it seemed to fade into smoke? Naruto, with a pout on his face, gazed at Akasum. I told you it was a lock. My Jiji had already opened 2 similar items using this type of lock. Now, with a smile, Kensei began to open the scroll. Please excuse me, but there are still unanswered questions about this Shigure. Although he was able to decipher the seals, a small writing on the side suggested to my son that it might be a message from Naru. When Naruto saw this, he glanced at Akasum. He released his grip, realizing that he was barely bleeding anymore. Fortunately, he still had enough cuts to open this with a quick hit. The seal broke, revealing a smaller scroll that caught everyone's attention, especially since Akasum had new bandages to clean and apply. Naruto Kensei's thumb grasped the scroll, opened it, and hummed. It appeared to be a final testament. Grasping it, Naruto started reading it aloud to Kisum while also glancing at him. My dear son Naruto, if you open and read this message, it signifies my demise, regardless of the circumstances that led me to the depths of mortality. You must know that I and your mother are proud of you for whatever life you live. We know you will do great things. As he proceeded, Naruto's gaze remained fixed on the paper. Kasei sensed the turmoil in his voice, and Akasum, able to discern each word with clarity, understood that Naruto needed to discover it on his own. I don't know how old you are when you received this letter, but you should know that if it has reached you, it means that you lived without me and without your mother, which is why I am deeply sorry for the dangers of our world, which has left me no other choice. I have no choice but to secure your future, even though it's possible that neither I nor your mother will have any left in the near future. The council, the enemy shinobi, and even the rebel groups possessing the resources to kill us, but regardless of what you understand, our sacrifice was not in vain, as we sacrificed our lives to bring you into this world. The mere mention of shinobi caught Shigeru's attention, but the entire letter sounded to him like something out of the books of history. Ninja Wars. Naruto finished the letter with tears in his eyes, and I'm afraid that one day he will be born again. I have bestowed upon you a man whom you will hold in high regard and who will guide you towards growth. The only thing that will guarantee your survival is an ancient power that will come to your aid as a last resort. I hope that somehow the seals still work wherever you are. If he has done this, whatever the bright light that brought you somewhere is, this jutsu must be done. I gave him one thing, and that is to send you to a place where you can grow, survive, and do great things. Whatever world you are in, I know I love you, Naruto, and your mother does too. Live your life to the fullest. I recommend reading your note, mother, and only when you are old enough can you promise me your father, Minato case. Naruto was holding the paper tightly when he finished. Akasum hummed as he read the letter. Also, it seems your father had every intention of helping you in your life, even if whatever it was about Shin Noyo Jutsu, I wouldn't have a clue how it was all relevant, or if so, has there been a shinobi conflict to make that letter look so gruesome in many centuries? Tensei tucked his arms into his sleeves and examined the scroll, observing that Naruto had not been mentioned in any of his birth records, and that the scroll appeared to possess an unusual ability to open up in this manner. Trapped inside another scroll with no real explanation, you had to believe the part about Naruto being from another world, not just that's it, but Kensei had been walking. The cut had a slight red tint as it healed, and it healed quickly, as if something was repairing Naruto from all the wounds. Akasum also saw this, but neither of them were sure what to do with all of this. Shigeru, however, had a feeling that everything was real and that Naruto was from another world. He could see it in his eyes. He had something buried inside him. His desire to improve and strengthen himself reveals a deeper mystery. He wrapped and stored the scrolls. Naruto had the day off, but one thing kept him awake that night. He would find out what the old man would say and what the other seals were for with time. Naruto was finishing his afternoon training. Yu was still watching as he worked in his lower body training. When he finished, when the timer went off, he saw me powering and smiling. Wow, really, you're getting there. I bet you'll be twice as strong next year. It was true he'd barely started his real training, but he's been doing exercise, doing preparation training to get there. These were some of the first things he did before he was allowed to train. The other thing was confidence, and he had given it with his scroll to the taking things off. He noticed that none of the teachers were around. The teachers weren't supposed to be here. When the timer went off, they were supposed to talk about that scroll. No, but it shouldn't have taken an hour. Mew hummed, looking up and putting a finger to his hand. Jin, I think they should have, but I suppose they had other matters to attend to. Naruto, with a small playful smile, glanced at Naruto. Would you like to sneak up on the meeting? Naruto continued to love the meeting. One thing Naruto does too that I wanted to know was the new teacher who joined the dojo. He was a big, dark-skinned man, and the other day he came home with my old man. His name was Apache, and Naruto wondered about him. He seemed dangerous. He had a feeling of dread every time. That he was close to the man, but also a feeling of security, kindness, and care was a great tier between two things that he felt for the man. When they reached the door and heard they could hear the meeting, the old man stared as he looked at the parchment again. Indeed, it appears and feels authentic, as you have observed. How did it come out of nowhere? Many questions surround Naruto now, but I guess this answers quite a few. Minato was very intelligent, able to understand the dangers and make sure some way to get there to his son in a terrible moment. I guess whoever this old Naruto cares about is the one who used this, as he says, jutsu. And I suppose we should proceed, with gratitude to whoever keeps Naruto safe. I'm glad I found him because it appears to have helped him walk a better path than he would have as a street thief. Naruto pouted, hearing that he needed to survive. He stole, but he didn't want to, and everyone else just wanted to hurt him or use him. Therefore, he decided to follow his own path and find a way to survive. I had no intention of providing him with charity. Despite his past as a street thief, he now appears to be a good boy, displaying strength and bravery in his interactions with the other teachers at the school. Appa, maybe Apachai can also train him. Akasum laughed briefly. We will have to ask, but I don't think he will object. I wanted this training, and it is only fair that he can try all the arts of the dojo. Shigu's voice echoed, promising to teach him how to use weapons as soon as I gain permission to listen. Talking about him like that, Naruto didn't know whether to feel scared. Honest or just embarrassed. However, Mew laughed. It seems like they have finally made a decision. With a weak smile, he could only nod, hoping that things would turn out well for him. However, he would soon learn that Apachai's training was not so easy. It would be the hardest of his training to come 2 years later. Naruto was on the ground unconscious again. Apachai began to sweat drops because he had knocked Naruto unconscious again. This was the 1,000th times this had happened so far, and Mew, who had returned from traveling the world with Aodo, the old man his grandfather, was scolding him once again when he was just returning that day. Apachai, you have to stop hurting Naruto so he can't become more strong if you keep almost killing him. Apachai looked sad, approaching Naruto and crying, please. Don't die, Naruto. Apachai will get better, I promise, please be okay. Daddy. Scoff was heard as the old man, watching with slight amusement, looked towards its source, a gruff man with a leather jacket and a scar on his nose. He didn't seem impressed. That's him, old man. You truly stated that this dojo was the best for us masters, but all I see is a weak disciple. I assure you, you didn't come here to train a disciple, but to become stronger as a martial artist because you chose the path of life. I'm wrong. Sakaki. Shio Sakaki simply sneered louder, turned around, and entered the dojo. He didn't act like a haughty and powerful old man. It wasn't like he had a choice. He really did, and he chose this. He made a tough guy act, but he was conflicted. Seeing the boy show so much potential and be so strong at such a young age reminded him of another, but also in a different way. He took one last look at the boy as he approached and unsteadily sat down, his frown deepening. Who am I kidding? This boy doesn't have another year like this. Turning around and standing up, the old man rubbed his beard, laughing out loud. 2 days later, when Rinka arrived for his weekend training, Kensei took Naruto's side. Before the day arrived, Sakaki was attempting, but failing, to spy from behind the door to better understand what the boy was like, given his exceptional training at such a young age. Kensei smiled as he looked at Naruto. Before the day ends, you two will engage in what most disciples do together. Sparring. Naruto pouted at that, but she received a lot more training than me, she knows more about those special tricks than I do. Kensei's eyes glowed a little. You remember the lessons from ago 1 week, that strange contraption was something high that they held Naruto against the ceiling of the dojo. It made him walk in a specific way with his legs kicking to progress, and it felt strange at first, but it was something that turned it into a special move. According to what he was told, kicking one leg, the same side arm pushes up, putting every ounce of momentum and strength of the stance on the ground in a single blow with the palm. Both the Chinese master and Akasum began to see Naruto as the best disciple to come, and both were attracted to the young blonde. They saw the mistake they had made with the last one and went to extremes to not give Naruto too much confidence, but they made sure he knew he was progressing and gave him everything when it came to turning him into a great martial artist. Naruto nodded, remembering the exercise. Yes, that strange sensation on the palm is indeed present. But what does that have to do with my fight with Rinka? Kensei smiled slightly, instructing Rinka to focus on the move rather than the technique, as it will be his strongest punch. Naruto was skeptical. But he nodded and sighed. It's okay if Fu trusts you. Later that day, Rinka and Naruto were in the training room, and they both got into position. Naruto adopted the traditional jujitsu stance, while Rinka adopted Tiger, one of the only 2 stances and styles he knew. With a quick wave of Akasum's hand, the fight began. Rinka screamed in attack as she approached and attacked with a claw to her ear. Naruto quickly caught the attack and pulled her, kicking her foot to catch her off guard. Didn't work. She used her back leg to kick him to the side, grabbed his crooked arm, and slid against her, pushing her with a strong palm strike and regaining her balance. Rinka took a hand to the chest. Where she had hit, Naruto adopted a narrow stance, but it would be one of the best, with one hand open in front of him and the other at his side facing her with a leaning forward stance. Rinka didn't recognize the stance. But she knew that it was something he hadn't learned yet. With a frown, he looked at his father. Dad, you can't teach him something I don't know. That's unfair. Before Naruto could ask what was going on, Kensei smiled at his daughter. He doesn't know Tiger, and he needed something different. You can't train properly if you both know the same styles. Don't worry, you'll learn everything from your mother. Rinka pouted but returned to the fight with a quick run. She tried to grab Naruto with both hands in a claw strike position, but Naruto moved away. Naruto moved to the side and struck him with his knuckles. Not being able to grab him, Rinka changed his position and blocked the blow to his side, grabbing his hand and launching a strong claw blow into his chest, dragging his fingers in a downward motion while doing so. Forcefully bending over, Rinka grabbed him from the back, lifted him up, and placed a knee on his chest, causing him to fall onto the mat. Rinka then regained his position and waited for him to stand up, coughing and holding his chest. Naruto slowly stood up. Gazing at Rinka with a hint of surprise, Naruto glanced behind her and noticed Kasei nodding. Naruto returned to his own stance and took a step forward. Rinka saw an opening as he started to walk around her, shifting the foot that was towards her. She kicked him and tried to trip him, only for him to lift his leg and make her run inward. By sliding his front foot behind him and spinning around her, Rinka found herself vulnerable. With a quick palm-up swipe, she found herself lifted up. He threw her back onto the mat, gasping for breath as he held her side. Rinka looked at Naruto, who was in a K stance, her arm striking her high in the air, her same side leg stretching to its maximum as her body straightened, and the leg like a pole rigid. Seeing her in such pain, Naruto ran towards her, worried for her well-being. Are you okay? Oh god, please tell me I didn't hurt you. You're my friend. Over the course of the past 2 years of training together, Kensei and Akasum developed a close bond, viewing each other as friends. During their conversations, Kensei suggested that they join the finished training as fellow disciples. Kens and Akasum stood up and joined Naruto, raising his jai. Kensei saw that the blow had left a bruise, but that was all. Honor picked up his girl and patted her on the back. It's okay. I just left you breathless. Breathe deeply and calmly. Listening to her father, Rinka began to breathe more slowly after a while. Rinka simply relaxed the pain, and now she felt numb. Kasei had used a needle to ease the pain without her knowing, turning around and picking her up. Kasei turned to Naruto in his arms and said, I think that's it for training. I guess this was a knockout, and you won. Naruto. Rinka gazed at Naruto, who appeared sorrowful for injuring his first genuine friend. Glancing away, he scowled. Hearing that, his concern for her, and the fact that he gave her the victory because of her inability to contain that technique, he felt his heart beat faster. At that point, with the pain numb and a little tired from a full day of training, and then the match, she smiled tiredly, but genuinely, it only gets better. Naruto, perhaps you could engage in a one-on-one conversation upon my return from China. I urge you to train diligently and strive to surpass my strength, as I assure you that you will be capable of safeguarding me in the event that I require your assistance. Some of them were taken aback, Kisi more so than others, but Naruto was the one caught off guard. However, he responded with a smile and a gesture of agreement, proudly defending her. Mew blushed upon hearing that. Mew scowled slightly, but she didn't continue. When Ken took Rinka back home, he excused Naruto from training that night. Mew entered the room. As he was preparing to go to bed, he turned around and noticed her sitting in front of him. What's up, Mew? He asked. Mew smiled and blushed. Rinka wanted you to get stronger, and you will protect her, right? Well, promise me that you will also be strong enough to protect me. Someday, although they didn't see each other much, only 1 month a year for a while, they were friends, and soon they would be even better friends. Naruto smiled a little and nodded clearly, saying, I can't say no to my friends, I promise. Mew grinned more and rose to her feet. I should go to bed and rest well. After she left, Naruto scratched his head. This has been a strange day. Why did those two suddenly ask me to protect them? Naruto was doing his night Kimpo training. He was walking around the city in a strange way, moving his arms up and down with each step, simply feeling the purpose these movements gave him. Kensei had told him that it would improve his punches with Sakaki. As he was having trouble letting go, he was passing by a row of buildings when he heard a loud screech of an animal in pain suddenly stopping. Her training run towards the fountain. In an alley behind the supermarket, a girl was face to face with a dog, and a black cat was in her arms. He saw what appeared to be scraped fur and possibly some blood, but he was knocked out with a growl of anger towards the attacking dog. He struck the dog with his foot, causing him to scream in pain. He ignored the girl's gaze. But he had to ask. Are you okay? The girl was crying with the cat in her arms. Noir is hurt. I have to help him. When he saw the dog get up, he gasped and pointed at him. Ready and grabbed the head of the dog, turning to narrow between his paws, trying to tackle him, and leaned back, spinning the dog around and over him, before throwing him into a trash can. The dog trembled as he stood up on his paws again, growling Naruto as his hind legs seemed to wobble and hurt. The trash can. Naruto looked back at him, stomping the ground with one foot and projecting an intimidating demeanor. After shooing the dog, he limped away, feeling more scared than fighting. Naruto turned around and grabbed the girl. He took her arm and helped her up, then took her to the nearest vet. It was a couple of blocks away, but they arrived. The girl gave the cat to the vet and he went to the back room to make sure she was okay. Naruto noticed the blood and realized there had been a fight with a large dog, but he lacked the courage to stay, fearing that the girl would blame him for not being able to save her cat. Just as he was about to leave, the girl heard the bell, turned around, and grabbed him by the shoulder. "Wait, thanks for saving us. I don't know if he will make it, but he has a chance. And if you never came, I would leave too. Please tell me your name at least before you leave." Naruto debated that he didn't want to be responsible for not arriving in time to help if the cat died. He sighed, and he only spoke. Without turning, Naruto let go of his hands and started running towards Jade. Once he was far enough away, he looked back, frowning. "I'm sorry I had to run. I can't stand if I don't." He began to do his practices again while returning to Ryo's Anpaku, wanting to become even stronger to help people next time at the clinic. It took a while, but the doctor came out and the girl approached. "He's going to be fine, doctor." The doctor looked at her with a pause before putting a hand on her shoulder. She looked down a little, but he smiled and chuckled. "He'll be fine in 2 days." They bit her, but she didn't bleed, but she's bruised and with a broken rib, one more minute, and she wouldn't have had this chance. You saved her in time. She's a cat girl you didn't know. Casara blushed a little and looked down. "I'm sorry, I got her recently, and with that dog attack I panicked. I guess I need to remember him better." He chuckled and told her not to worry, he would put a cast on the cat and make sure it was better. The girl smiled and turned towards the door, a tear rolling down her cheek. "Naruto, thank you. You saved my beloved cat. If there's a chance, I might run into you again. If not, I will personally express my gratitude." Seinen, who is sitting on the roof. Sakaki was humming as she listened and watched Naruto down the street open a can of beer he had just consumed. It appears that the boy has a fan. I am curious to see how the other men will react. He jumped outside and went to get more beer. A few days later, Casara was home and was in his room petting Noir, humming while looking up some things on his computer. That Naruto character was a fighter. Apparently, he used some type of karate. "Maybe I can learn something." Looking at Noir, she smiled. "Maybe I can protect you next time." It sounds good to think about how he fought and did everything to save her, and Noir knew that he must have been a martial artist. Yes, he should definitely learn something. Yes, if I train hard, maybe I can be as strong as him. She couldn't get a good look at his face. He never looked directly at her, and she was too busy panicking about not going to really look at him, but she knew he had blonde hair, and she could swear his eyes were a vibrant shade of sky blue, and he was smiling as he began to search for schools. I want to thank him properly. I'm sure that if I learn to fight, I will find it again. People with common interests always find each other after all. He also blushed a little, remembering those eyes and how strong but soft they looked. It wasn't that bad from what I saw anyway. Maybe he's single. Naruto leaped over a fence post in an alley, then glanced back to see Mew approaching him. He smiled. "You're getting slow, Mew. Come on, keep up the pace." Mew, who had been excited since he turned 16 and could now attend school, landed next to him, pouting. "It's not fair. You know I'm not as fast as you." Naruto simply smiled, acknowledging that his speed wasn't significantly faster than Mew's. She consistently chose the correct path, which increased her resistance and prevented her from pushing towards Adante with force. On the other hand, Naruto stayed close to the ground, exerting maximum force against the wind and breaking a speed record as he used gravity to enhance his fighting strength. While Naruto's natural muscle and improvement through training made him strong enough, he used the earth as a stool to gain the speed needed to attack. The two were total opposites in fighting. One was fast, the other was strong, one flew in the sky, and the third was rooted in the ground. One was a woman, the other a man. She was a do fighter. He was something completely different. Back in Ryo's Aku, the old man sat with Akasum outside, playing a game of hot yellow. Akasum placed his piece and smiled, knowing that he was currently 1 point ahead. He was referring to the additional training he received last year. The first trip to the heart of Japan was a failure. He only grew in peace and serenity, which once again lifted his spirits, but he still refused to accept praise or negative feedback. He simply worked harder. Either way, he was a much more energetic and fluid fighter, as well as being more within his training ethic. He thought Naruto needed one more trip, but even further, this time to the same place where he was born, he found his type. The elder hummed as he attempted to explain the situation. Naruto told me that when you lent him some books he read to him about a certain philosophy. Akasum was a little confused. He never thought Naruto would be interested in any of them. The old man continued. In a very old book, as you will see. Naruto provides a detailed explanation of the yin and yang that made Akasum smile. The forces of collision and balance that flow together to create order, the old man nodded. But that is not all, he also introduced a third energy if Akasum stopped his hand to stop placing the piece he currently had. He looked at the natural flow that not only balances the other two, but also flows with him as an individual energy, depending on how the outside affects the inside. The old man nodded again. Once lost, the theory of balance in the universe is lost for the majority of the population, but it is truer than just the two. Even in the realm of martial arts, there are dichotomies such as yin and yang, black and white, and good and evil, but there is also a third type of energy. I believe that this third type of fighter only emerges once every 1000 years. He will grow more powerful than any other fighter. I taught him everything I could about Sidu, but Mune is the only thing I don't know to tell the truth. I did know Mune, he was a Mune fighter, he knew both do and say. However, Mune required self-learning and experience as a lone fighter, without the guidance of a master. Akasum took his place and grinned, confident that he will eventually uncover the truth. Back with Naruto and Mew were at the gates of school. I'm ready to start the day, come on, let's go to our class. Mew smiled and followed him. The day went pretty well, but since everything would go so perfect Naruto had to wonder what was around the corner. Normally things should go wrong to be normal here or so. Some of his teachers said he was walking to his club activities and saw Mew taking his boat to choose. He understood his last activities in other schools did not go well and he became popular and that went to the end south very quickly. He took a basic something he should go to. Thanks to the old man's guidance, the karate club was heading there when he saw a man doing something on a metal platform. He was about to pass him, but the guy walked in front of him. Wait there, you're the new kid around here, right? Class 3 and Naruto Uzumaki, this is your first year in a real school. You got decent grades in homeschooling, but you didn't move on to the next grade last year. Naruto was patient with him, wondering what the boy wanted before walking again. The boy smiled wildly, his ears grew. Let me give you some advice. The karate club has high expectations for those who can learn. Although you don't resemble a shrimp, your small stature and lack of strength prevent you from receiving serious attention. Naruto finally understood the maniac game and he sighed with relief. Whatever. Listen, if I were you, I wouldn't put anything in my way. You might have more enemies than friends. He walked around the guy, but the man grabbed his shoulder hard, not hard, but hard enough. Bad idea. Naruto turned, grabbed the man's arm, turned it off, and then slammed him up and down, leaving him looking shocked and sick. Naruto groaned, I apologize, but I picked up the guy and walked away again. Don't try to hide behind me. By the way, throwing people is essential for that kind of thing. The man with pointy ears looked at Naruto's retreating figure. I see. So it's interesting. He laughed while writing down the information in his notebook. Naruto, I'm interested in you. I swear you'll be excellent entertainment. For me, R. Naijima. With that, Naijima left. Naruto put on the suit and entered to see a large mass of flesh hitting someone smaller with a fist and making him crash against the wall. As this was a training session, he was forbidden to interfere with him, which he hated since it was just wrong. This continued for a while. He stayed back to watch them and soon he was chosen for the next game. A week later, he got up and the big guy was smiling. So are you ready to know the rules of the rink? Here it is. Stay there and let me cry for you or there will be some problems. Naruto assumed the same posture as everyone else. My damn J karate is for the big and strong, not the weak little shrimp like you. Naruto gritted his teeth but controlled himself. He knew that these kinds of idiots were never going to listen to words, only fists. But what better way to make the man angry than to answer him? Indeed, that may be your perspective, but in reality, you're merely a thug, a low-level criminal who employs karate as a means to subdue others. He frowned, then smiled. You think you're good, huh? I put a lot of effort into developing these muscles. The club had been pleading with me to join since high school, but I had to constantly complain and beg to gain entry. Naruto remained steadfast, refusing to compromise his honor as a martial artist. I sullied myself with words. I signed up, accepted, and did not say a word. I have never walked or stood below the height of my body, thereby refuting your theory about me. Now, I challenge you to a match. I really do win. You abandon the club, you win. As I resigned, the man scowled and then grinned broadly, indicating that this would be an easy task. After some time, everyone gathered and the most important member of the club, known as Tsukuba, the referee, raised his hand, ready to begin. Naruto nodded and the other man laughed. Naruto took his own stance, with one hand in front and one on his waist. The other guy stood there with his arms raised. Naruto saw the hand go down and the guy in front of him rushed to attack with a sharp fist. Seeing their slow approach, Naruto took a step back and pulled out his fist. Stepping back, pulling out a fist, the fist narrowly missed, but it collided forcefully with the ear. Naruto spits, tripping won't happen again. Naruto rolled his eyes as he got into position again. Naruto saw the big fool start to kick him on the head. He crouched down and walked forward, but as the guy looked forward, he didn't see anyone. Where did he go? Naruto was standing behind him, back to back. The big fool saw him and backed away from him before throwing a sharp spin to the left. Naruto rolled the blow and taking advantage of the momentum, he took a step back and in a split second, he was behind him again, back to back. Naruto sighed. The big guy roared and threw another punch, but found his arm caught and his leg kicked before he was thrown to the ground. He walked to the side of the ring and waited for the trial, but he felt guilty. It was a karate match and his anger got the best of him. He used a technique of kempo and a jujitsu move to finish it. He saw the big guy wake up from the water that had been poured on him and start crying because it wasn't legitimate. Naruto felt even more guilty seeing him cry because karate was his life. He took pity. He came closer. He won on a technicality. The time I took a step back and let him run towards my fist, it was a kempo technique and I threw him using a jujitsu move. I didn't use any karate here. I'll go. He went and left his in the locker before he went home. Tsukuba that day was to an abandoned warehouse, or not so much since he came in to see a lot of people. Casara, you said to keep an eye out for potential, right? I believe I witnessed someone utilizing two distinct martial arts techniques to defeat one of the club's strongest members, as well as striking a girl who was seated on a chair in front of him. He grinned, donning blue jeans with a torn leg, a red shirt bearing the name Valkyrie, and a green beret that served as a hat to conceal his rebellious red hair. Casara sat up from his nearby position and stroked his black cat. That's right, you have a name. Tsukuba nodded and took the file she had received from the office. Naruto Uzumaki is his name and he handed it to her for review. He stands 6 feet tall, has a C blood type, and maintains acceptable grades. She failed her homeschooling degree last year, but he is 16 years old. He has no athletic records from past or current sports or martial arts, except that he lives in a dojo as a disciple. It's not a bad thing if he lives in a good dojo. She may have received excellent training. As she snapped the picture, her gaze remained fixed on her blonde hair and the blue eyes of Rebel, despite her inner turmoil. Blonde-haired Rebel and his my name is Naruto, and he has good fighting skills. He is the one who saves. I have to be sure I have to do it, but I can't just be scared by this. If it's not, then I'll have to keep looking. If so, this is it. This must be fate. He passed the file to his assistant, Tsukuba. Bring it here if possible. No damage, but if it doesn't come, voluntarily bring it here with the strength if necessary. Take out the dot. Tsukuba nodded and bowed before leaving. His assistant was reluctant to say anything at first, but when everyone left, he said his part, Casara. Normally, it's not like you to be so direct with a person. What makes this Naruto Uzumaki special? Casara looked at him. Then she looked at her cat, petting her again before sighing. Let's say I have a past with someone named Naruto. He never gave me a last name and I never saw his face, but I know 2 things about him. He is blonde and has blue eyes. I want to pay him everything. The assistant nodded reluctantly before thinking if it was a good or bad past. His tone was softer than normal, but his words suggested pain. He went with her to look for more potential at the school since they needed more recruits. Naruto HMU seemed worried since she had just sneezed 10 times. Are you okay? Don't tell me you have a cold, you never get sick. Naruto smiled and huffed. Yes, I'm fine. I guess someone was talking about me. I thought several people were, but he had a strange feeling in him. He shuddered as he felt that danger was in his future. When they reached the door, he walked home with Mig. He pressed his finger against the door and pushed hard, then had to stomp on the floor to open it. It burst open, and Mu smiled. I wonder how we are even slightly different. I still need 2 fingers. Naruto chuckled, yes. Well, all you need to do is lightly touch your Jiji and it will open up. There will always be someone stronger than you, but Jiji is the only one who can truly outclass everyone else. Even teachers engage in verbal battles, but occasionally they can lose control and resort to using their fists instead of words. However, before they have a chance to react, an elderly man, known by his nickname in the martial arts community, enters. The invincible Superman, Ayato Furinji, walked in and saw the teachers training more, and after entering his room to prepare for he saw Mu enter. He smiled, and she too. They had gotten a lot closer since they had time. Mu spoke first. Given that it's your birthday and it's already October 10th, what would you like for dinner? After all, Western pizza is a celebration. I laughed and nodded, having learned how to prepare it. So I hope my pizza is as good as my ramen. Kensei entered the room beaming, and like a good teacher, he suggested that I bring some exotic dancers. Despite their lack of party spirit, he laughed as he walked out of sight. Love is in your heart, and that's why I will pay the greatest tribute to give you a real smile like that, he said. I suppose I should, but he is more akin to me, and as a son, even mine, I will contact my father's residence and inquire. Naruto came out and saw Shigeru holding a katana for them to use, so she grabbed him and positioned herself accordingly. Oh Naruto, this is for practicing your defense, if it is weak, it will get you killed. Naruto nodded. Shigeru pushed his weapon towards his heart, raised a hand to the side of his sword, and when the sword reached it, he hit the thing to the side, making Shigeru miss. He pushed his sword against hers and tried to cut off his head, but using the back of his sword, Shigeru crouched down and got behind Naruto, turning his sword back and trying to stab his back. But he turned his sword behind him and took a step towards one side to divert before sliding the sword forward and attempting to hit his head once more. Shigeru dove underneath once more, turning on his toes as he slashed at her ankles. Naruto jumped on his sword's momentum, spun it horizontally, and used it to slash. He hit the ground hard, but she rolled backwards. With the katana, Naruto caught the ground before standing up, panting slightly. Shigeru stood still, not even slightly affected. Shigeru nodded. Your fluid movements present great strength. Your defense is impeccable, but what about your fundamentals? Naruto knew what she meant and got into position once again. She jumped and hit hard. But he pushed his sword up and blocked it perfectly. She slid down and slashed from the side right, but he swung his sword down and hit hers. On the side, she took a step back before slashing diagonally from the top left, and he swung his sword up and hit her again, but the momentum she carried was to the lower right diagonal, and he slashed his sword in an arc towards the ground and struck against hers, returning to herself. She used the same momentum to strike from the left side now, but he turned the blade towards him and struck from the side. She stepped back and then slashed from the bottom left diagonally, and he slid his sword down and hit hers to block, but she lifted it with momentum to the diagonal right, and using the same inverted arc movement, he blocked it from above. She stepped back, and he turned his body to the side, arching the sword behind him, then down. Before he did, she nodded. You've done it perfectly, Lee. There's nothing more I can teach. Naruto bowed lower before kneeling. You are the greatest weapon user in the world, and I hope that one day I can pay you for teaching me everything you know. Shigeru smiled and knelt down. As she held him by the shoulder, she said, stand up. You did very well on your own. I just gave you my knowledge, as it should be. You don't need to pay me anything. Naruto smiled and gave her a hug before standing up. She nodded, grabbed the spare sword, and then watched him run off to train more. Shigeru looked before walking towards his room to train harder, as he needed a good release from his emotional moment. Naruto proceeded to Sakaki, but regrettably, a sign on the door read, if you're planning to have a beer, don't wait up. Naruto, take a break. You have earned it tomorrow. Failure to do so will result in a twice as difficult task. You are content with the outcome, but it is your birthday. Take a break. Naruto grumbled as he walked towards the post. He turned his neck, but when he got into position, Kasei walked over and smiled. I'm really looking forward to training, even on your special day. Shigeru doesn't have much time, so I wanted to give you the rest I could offer you before. I would drop everything and be a good source of weapons training if you needed. She wants to be your friend. Naruto sighed, looking down. I understand, I know, and I even did something special to repay her, but I want to make sure it's usable in real combat before giving it to him. But still, if I don't get stronger, how can I be the greatest disciple you want me to be? Sensei walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. Listen, Naruto. This isn't about strength for us, right? Sensei knew Naruto's heart more than anyone here. Even the elderly man was aware of Naruto's heartache, yet he was fortunate to have a strong aunt who nurtured his heart. Naruto sighed, smiling sadly. I promised them that I would put in more effort for them, but I also want to grow for my teachers. Sensei patted him on the shoulder and said, I understand the human body is a machine that gets stronger the more you use it. But I'll tell you a secret. If you work too hard, any machine will break. We can do hard training, but they always stop us and let you rest enough to get stronger without too much stress when breaking. Upon hearing this, Kasei's smile grew even wider. Naruto smiled back. You know I feel more connected to you than anyone else. I've always pondered why Sensei chuckled before turning to Naruto, given our striking similarities. I'm confident that one day you'll comprehend, but for now, let's embrace your uniqueness. Naruto noticed that his masters respected his food. This time, he smiled, damn, even the old man took it easy and even gave him an extra slice of pizza. The dinner was over pretty quickly, but then the cake appeared. Mew took it out and it was huge, but when he left it, Naruto looked up and began to cry. Everyone signed and submitted a photo. Akasum submitted a signature, while Yin-Yang Sakaki contributed a photo of them displaying their weapons. Sensei included a photo of Naruto and him gazing at the sky together, while Shigeru accurately depicted Naruto and her holding the same sword. Apachai skillfully drew a depiction of Naruto and him interacting with each other. He and Mew merged into a single image in the center, with Naruto resembling his grandfather and both of them holding hands and kicking in the air on opposite sides at the bottom. Happy birthday, Naruto, and among 16 candles, he smelled and wiped away his tears. You guys are the best. Thank you. Everyone had a hand on him, and he smiled. The old man smiled, made a wish, and his Platboy did good. Naruto took a deep breath. I wish I had someone who loved me. Let him love me soon, because my heart cannot bear this feeling of love. Lonely, not even one more day. I wished for love and extinguished them all with a single sigh. They all cheered and received a piece of cake. Naruto took the largest one and ate it with him. In the end, there was only one piece of cake. Apachai, sweet lover, was stopped by Naruto. Apachai. I would love to give you the last piece, but I want to keep this piece in the refrigerator until Rinka returns. Apachai smiled upon seeing Naruto's desire for fairness and nodded in agreement. I'm willing to travel across the ocean to deliver it to him immediately, but the journey is too lengthy and could potentially spoil it. I hope he returns soon. Sensei sighed. I have no news from my wife, so I have no idea when she will be back. Naruto smiled sadly. Mew seemed a bit worried but also a little hurt. The elder saw this and got up. Naruto, how about you go and rest a little early? We'll start with a dry one and I'll train you, Naruto. Brightened up, he smiled, of course. Have a good night, everyone. Mew sighed and nodded. He would not see me as a woman. The elder smiled. He sees you as more than just a woman, he sees you as a strong person and a wonderful friend. If he could, he would accept you with love, but you're not giving him a chance. Mew looked confused as he chuckled. He thinks you only care about him as a best friend and that you like him a lot, but there is no chance of loving him. You're giving him all the wrong words, and I know why. I know it because I did the same with my wife. Let her soul rest. Mew seemed lit while he looked sad for the first time. He smiled again. I understand that, as a good soul and defender of justice in the world, you don't wish for any decision you make to put me in danger. You don't want the evil you may encounter to turn against you or cause you harm. Even you've neglected him, and I doubt your love alone can sway him from his current path. He requires more than you or any one person can provide. Mew growled as he let his thoughts be known. I won't share. He was with me first. The old man smiled selfishly, as always. If only you loved him, he would be much happier, but if he didn't receive more, he would fall on the wrong path. The path that leads to darkness. Mew looked angry but sad. She didn't want it to happen, but sharing it was the only way. He began to retreat into his own world before reaching out to him with love. Consider this. Either you will love him and hurt him, allowing others to take and share him, or you will be with him, sharing him and providing him with what he needs. Be the Naruto you love, Mew. See. He sat there, unable to speak, as he tried with all his might to think of what to do. The elders and the teachers went to bed. Mew sighed with tears falling. If I love him and I don't share him, he is still in danger, but if I share him, I have more allies to protect him, they love him too. But why should I have to share the one I love because I'm not strong enough? It's not fair. The next day, Naruto trained with the old man who gave him a hard time with the clubs. Let's fight harder. You're still too weak. Naruto was grunting and groaning with the effort, dodging and blocking the huge blows the old man was giving him. Although it was almost time to go to school, he saw an opening when Naruto took a step back too far and hit the front of the club into his stomach, pulling him back. Naruto coughed as he held his aching stomach, unable to get up. The old man smiled. You did well. You still need a little work, but you're going to be a lot faster and stronger for this. Naruto smiled and groaned as he was rolling on the floor. A kiss, school is about to start. Oh, better, Naruto sighed, rubbing his stomach. It is still painful, but this time it is the muscles. It is fine, I can endure it for the day. I will see you all tonight. He and Mew attended school, and Naijima entered the classroom as class was about to commence. Ah, the man who wished to observe your friendship. Mew looked at the man and smiled without realizing it. Hello, you are Naruto's friend. I didn't know he had friends anymore. He groaned and pushed Nima away, preventing her from attempting to approach me. He's trying to be my friend because I beat someone strong. My mouth swung, and he laughed. It looks like there's trouble afoot. Hey, Nima smiled. I have information. It looks like the referee who officiated your match yesterday, showed interest in you and expressed a desire to unblock you. Although you lost due to technical fouls, you could have won if there had been any other factors involved. Undoubtedly, Naruto and Mew took their seats when Naijima had to leave, despite their vow to return. Thanks to the bell, the day ended and the man that Naruto saw waiting for him was looking at him with murderous intent. Naruto left his bag. Mew went home, observing the boy's behavior closely. I know you can take him, so why do I have to go? Naruto's expression was one of sadness as he declared, I will not submit to your demands. I anticipate incurring some injuries, but this is his attempt to project an air of fortitude. I will return home shortly. Mew stood there, nodded, and headed the other way. Tsukuba smiled, seeing Naruto clearly. I don't know what I can do. Hey, you may have eliminated Damonji, but I'm much tougher. Naruto sighed. What do you want? Tsukuba frowned. I don't like your attitude. Look, come with me now, or I'll reveal your face. Naruto scoffed. There is no way I need to get home to train. You're wasting my time. Naruto closed his eyes. Fighting for strength alone is no way to fight. Go ahead, hit me, finish it already, and leave. Tsukuba scoffed. I see you're just a slimy little coward. How can you call yourself a martial artist when you don't even fight an opponent who challenges you? Oh, bad idea. Tsukuba never questions or degrades Naruto's honor. Naruto adopted a stance that was different from the formal stance of Moto Tsukuba, who stood in his with his arms raised and his legs moving and bouncing all over the place. That's it. Beat me. You're going home. I win. You're not worth my time. The inside hand of his stance blocked his Koopa's high kick and the outside hand responded with a series of punches. The Tsukuba grunted, getting his bearings. Lucky stroke. Come on, fight me. Naruto ran forward and punched him in the face. Tsukuba blocked it and smiled too slowly. Uraraka looked down to see a fist connected hard to his belly. He kneeled down, holding his stomach. Basai's Yamazuki was dirty. No one does that move in a match. Naruto smiled. This is a street fight, not a fight. If you wanted a fight, you should have said so, but this is not a fight. Unless it's official. Tsukuba stood up and launched a spinning kickback, only for his leg to get caught and thrown upwards, making him fly back and hit the ground hard. He was knocked out. Naruto sighed. Not even close to my level. No more random fights. Just leave me alone. Naruto started walking away. Omen saw me waiting. She walked with him and pouted fight. No, Naruto smiled and looked at her, yes, and I didn't mean to. She called me a slimy coward with embarrassing martial arts, plus you still saw us fight. I saw you. Mew sighed and frowned angrily. I would like to take a punch. He is an idiot. You're the most honorable martial artist I have ever seen in my life. You still did very well. Are you ready to train? Jiji can be quite tough. Naruto rubbed his head. Yes, he is becoming more difficult, but I can handle it. He smiled broadly. He genuinely cares, so let's work harder together. She nodded and he smiled. He began to run quickly. Mai pouted before following him. You're so unjust to Casara. Casara was biting her nail. Upon viewing the photograph of the blonde he had captured, there was no alternative. I am not yet visible, and if it is him, I do not wish to be perceived as someone who desires his death. I must act. Utilize them. He turned to see a burly man dressed in white and sunglasses, a little shrimp with a red headband, and a man of medium height with darker skin, blue hair, and a ponytail. Okay, you three find this child and bring him here. In any case, he is not too damaged, and if he is as good a fighter as rumored, he will be very valuable. The man in the center smiled. Of course, Casara, I am free to do whatever I wish with him to bring him here, as long as he is not deceased. Correct. Casara thought about this and nodded. Bring him here alive and conscious by any means necessary. They left and she bit her nails harder. If it's you, I can finally pay you. I can finally tell you. Thank you, and we can be friends. Forget about Ragnarok. You are my sole possession. I have always harbored affection for them. They were merely providing me with assistance when I required it. Despite the fact that I must state it directly to you, please be aware that I rose late in the morning to present you with this gift on my birthday. Hahaha, I made this for you, and I appreciate that you're enjoying the story. Keep doing it, have fun, and I wish you all a great day. If you're interested, it's not necessary, but it would make a wonderful gift. Jane, welcome to hell. Party Central arc, girl arc, wow, anyway. I'm crazy and dizzy from work, so this will be a work in progress. But anyway, I'll give it to you. It's not just me, but let's engage in some lighthearted conversation. It seems that Naruto he flew away again. Oh no, and he hoped that Igi would not exert excessive pressure on him as Naruto flew through a club that collided with Akasame's stomach. We discussed the incident. Dur sighed as he watched Naruto crash into the wall on the other side of the complex. This is the final level of his first skill, he will never be able to lower it, so Kasei chuckled. I think he will do it in a week, but what will you ask him to do next? Dur rubbed his beard before smiling, revealing a skill that only I could teach Naruto. As he limped back to the corner, Eller smiled and put down his sticks. We've trained enough today to continue practicing with Apachai, and we'll continue tomorrow. Then how's school going? Miru watched Naruto as Apachai struck his gloves, and he smiled, ready to train. Naruto engaged in a minor altercation with a black belt in sports karate, using a variety of techniques, including the Yamazuki kick. Despite his apparent popularity, Naruto sighed. Yes, but I don't want to take it seriously. Why must I endure this? Only because I am strong. The old man chuckled, understanding that martial artists like you, me, and all of us will always find martial artists who want to fight for the sake of their beliefs, no matter how petty or proud. Naruto rolled his shoulders right, but for some reason I wish I found more pride because the little reasons for fighting me are making me angry. First, the big guy thinks karate is only for the strong, and then the black belt wants to fight just to show how he's stronger as a tough guy who else is at a master level, thinking he can fuck with me because he has muscles. Naruto smiled. Hello. I said master level who thinks he's strong because of his muscles. It's a compliment, Sakaki-sensei, which means you fight for your beliefs and the strength of your friends, which makes you a true martial artist. Sakaki blushed and rubbed the back of his neck. Well, you have me there, but don't spread it. I'm still a man with pride. Sakaki smiled as he saw Naruto get back up. Hey, I thought keep in mind that when we practice karate, you use all the styles, but which one do you think suits you? Remembering him and an old friend, Naruto thought for a moment and smiled at me, too. I don't resort to attacking or defending, instead, I attack and assert that I employ both strategies simultaneously. At the same time, Sakaki smiled with pride, knowing that his disciple chose a great form to follow. Sure, his name was a little strange to hear, but his practice was one of the best in the true form of karate. In these long years, Naruto has never dodged one completely, and today was going to be no different as Naruto slid to the side and received a hard blow to the cheek. He grunted, putting them back together around his head and saw the knee coming towards his face. Although he couldn't successfully block Apachai, he managed to catch her knee and force her to fall. But that made Apachai duck, so he hit her chin with his elbow and kicked him in the stomach. Naruto was thrown a little back by the elbow, but managed to catch the leg just as it touched him and turned towards Apachai's side, launching a low kick again. Seeing Apachai get up, he hit the giant's stomach hard. Apachai caught him and forced his foot free in Naruto's face, causing the young blonde to crash against the wall near the door and planted once again. Apachai seemed ready to fight more, but when he saw Naruto bleeding, he approached the others, who also saw him. Dur grabbed Naruto, and he took it out before dropping it. Naruto coughed and held his side. Wow, I think I pierced a hole with a fragment. Kasei came down and stuck 3 needles in the side, it was pierced by your 3 broken ribs. It's surprising you can still breathe with the collapse inward. Akasum punched the lower rib and slammed 3 fingers into the broken upper rib before grabbing Naruto's shoulder and kicking him in the back. Naruto squeezed his side harder. I'll never get used to the replaced bones, but thanks to sensei, in old times I would be surprised, but now it was expected. A slight red. The burn covered the injured area and soon Naruto relaxed. I don't know how you do it and maybe you say the opposite, but you two work very well. I don't feel even a slight fracture. Kensei sighed, and what you say won't matter. We didn't do anything inside your body to heal the bones in seconds. Rest. They weren't surprised to see him standing up and loosening his joints again. You look down, sadly seeing that rather than Naruto, he would rather train and possibly die with an injury than rest and be fine. Naruto adopted the standard Muay stance. Come on, Apachai, come on, some more. Everyone backed away as Apachai stood still for the moment. He also stood still, waiting for the starting bell. Apachai became tense while dodging. Apachai threw a fist hard and Naruto remained calm, concentrated, and serene. He turned hard, but as always, he couldn't dodge it completely, but he did do something surprising. Naruto received a strong blow on the shoulder, pushing him back, but she took advantage of the momentum to turn her fist and deliver a strong blow to Apachai's face, which was blocked by her other fist. Apachai closed her fist a little and hit his elbow against Naruto's side, which made him step back. Naruto Jade rubbed his cheek a little, but saw Apachai kick hard to the side and blocked it before turning and launching a kick straight at Apachai's hip. Apachai also blocked it and remained. They were there for a while before bowing down and finishing their training session. Naruto improves by becoming faster and stronger. I promised to make you a great warrior, and so you have. Stay upright. I will demonstrate Naruto's ultimate Mu technique. He stood back and watched as Apachai took his stance again, then leaned back and stood on one hand while punching both legs in the air where someone's intestine would be and one hand down the leg in a punch. This technique effectively evades any attack and compels the opponent to either retreat or fall back. Apachai stood up and Naruto bowed. Thank you, sensei. The training was taking a long time, especially since the old man was giving him everything he needed for the final level of Sei's special ability. Akasum rubbed his mustache while Akaki grabbed Naruto by the hand and dragged him towards the steel training poles. Asum sighed. You said it wasn't. Why did you say that I would never understand? The old man smiled fondly. It is true to tell the truth as a Muay fighter. When I first found out, it took me a month for each level, but 5 for the last level. He has gone down each level faster than I would have imagined, but this last level is almost over. It's been 4 months and 3 weeks, and it's almost over. But why is it taking so long? I'm worried. Kensei and I both nodded in agreement. It appears that his progress has become increasingly challenging since your return, despite the initial optimism that he would improve. But as time went on, it got worse. Shigeru was face down on them, and I'm worried he won't make it to the Katsun-ken. Apachai looked softly. I had a hard time wondering if I was doing something good for the world by drawing blood with my fists. It was difficult, but soon I found the goodness and truth of the world in the eyes of animals and children. Naruto must find his own path of heart, and Apachai will do everything possible to help him find it soon. It was a difficult decision to make, but everyone came together to help him find the right path by any means necessary the next day at school. The terrible is beaten by Naruto, the Neonijima, and his normal evil attitude. They attempt to tarnish the reputations of Naruto and Tsukuba for their own malicious purposes. Naruto sighed and attempted to leave, with Mew following him. However, Naijima caught up with him and smiled. Well, if you're not my new friend Naruto, congratulations on your successful destruction of Tsukuba. So, would you like to join me in assuming responsibility for the school? Naruto continued passing by, and Mew ignored him too, but grabbed my Naijima's man. Will he learn sometime? She threw him hard to the ground before realizing what she did. Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? It's only natural that someone throw away those who sneak up on him. Naruto chuckled. Don't worry, he's tough. I did the same when he did it to me. Naijima, go away, Naijima. With an evil chuckle, he stood up. Naijima was about to speak, but someone spoke loudly near the crowd, appearing to be afraid of them, and ran away. It's a shame he has brought shame to Ragnarok. Find him and tell him to leave town. Oh, Naruto and Mew looked to see 3 people. The group consisted of a large man wearing sunglasses and a white shirt, a smaller man resembling a hippie biker, and a man with darker hair and blue school clothes. The man in blue had thrown a punch at the falling piece of paper, shattering it in a single blow. Naruto gave him a stern look and began boxing. I guess Apachai training will be very good here. The boxer took the others on. We have to find that Naruto character. Naruto was behind me, with his face turned away. Of course I would be slightly invisible to his eyes. Naruto started to walk towards his next class when Naijima reappeared. Listen, I have information about those guys. You might want to know what I have to say before you reject me. Naruto reasoned that learning more about them could be beneficial, as it might enable him to communicate with them more effectively. He pointed to the old shed's doors. Naruto leaned against a wall, Mew remained motionless, and Naijima skillfully removed her bra. The 3. What did you see? Naruto looked thoughtful, like a worker with good legs. I must admit that Naruto's legs were not made of twigs, but given his size, he would require a strong sense of gravity. Pressing a few buttons, Naijima scowled. Previously, the launcher was a black belt in judo, but his aggressive behavior led to his expulsion. Evidently, Naijima was second in command, and given his size, I don't blame him for his preferred throw. It's the elevated lever. Naruto sighed, employing a trio of techniques. Kicks, throws, and strikes. And I guess punches. Naijima smiled with good perception. Tita the Puncher, a former boxer in the league, advanced to the final before an accident caused his elimination. Despite recording his matches and slowing down the video to the maximum extent possible, his lethal left punch remained undetected. Naruto watched the video and smiled. They simply do not understand the concept of quick hits. Naijima rejected him. Yes, call it what you want. They are looking for you, but they are not the ones who are curious. It is their leader, a commanding officer of a section of the strongest gang in the city called Ragnarok. She is known as Valkyrie for her aerial assaults, and she mainly uses her legs. Her name is Kaiser Nanjo, and she used to be a great taekwondo specialist. Naruto groaned, are you kidding me? No way. This is going to be simple. He was a real blue league boxer with an incredibly fast punch, and someone even stronger with big on the legs in front. I hope they weren't weak, but they didn't try to kill him just because he was a good fighter. He would go about his day, keep his head up, but he wouldn't pick a fight. He wasn't a coward. If they found him, they would find him. If they didn't find him, they wouldn't. He had 3 days left before that, and they would find him with Casara. Casara jumped and spun before slamming her foot hard against the punching bag in front of her, breaking it in half. Ya stood up, huffing, as her assistant informed her that she had been in this state for a good 3 hours. He handed her a towel, which she accepted and used to wipe her face. The assistant cleared his throat. Casara. We have news from the fists. It appears that they aim to integrate you into their group and demonstrate your value by teaming up to defeat a rival gang. In 2 weeks, they will request an answer, and Casara will consider it. Wait a minute. Freya, you have been a great help to me, and achieving the same rank as you is my way of expressing my gratitude. Now, it's time for me to take my place in the gang seriously. I've turned towards the weights and am confident that I can lift 90 kilograms with just 1 leg. How is the search for potential going? He needs to focus on business matters. Even if Naruto was his, he couldn't afford to put things on hold. The assistant bowed, acknowledging that no one had as much hope as Naruto, and no one seemed worthy enough to be a martial artist. Sorry Casara sighed deeply, if Takeda can't bring back this character from Naruto, I won't be able to do so quickly. He turned to face an executive officer named Sugi. Yes, this guy beat those 3 punks, and I'll guarantee to listen. I gathered information about this individual on the streets during my childhood. He was a small-time food thief, and he abruptly disappeared. His last known whereabouts were before he joined this school. He was observed on various routes, exhibiting a peculiar gait each time he walked, indicating a distinct walking style. Or maybe even on a route she turned and sneered. And then what good is this information besides your doubts? Suji thoughtfully before approaching. He likely received training from a young age, potentially surpassing my strength. However, if he didn't exist at all, how could he be here? Casara paused, thought for a moment, and sighed. Suji nodded, saying, if he even beats me, then be careful, before departing. He stopped lifting and looked at his assistant, who bowed before leaving. He also went to his chair and sat down, holding his cat on his lap. Noir, do you believe he could be the one? Noir meowed, and Casara embraced his cat. Good morning Naruto. Her eyes opened when Naruto was in a position and shape very peculiar. He was currently wearing red pajamas and had on a small cap with fox ears, and the whiskers on his face were more pronounced now due to the moonlight. He was lying with his feet stretched outward and hunched forward with his head held high and hands together next to her cheek. He went into kitty mode, and when he woke up, he found her lying on the bed, rubbing her face against his kitty. Naruto gave her a startled look before sighing and grinning at her antics. Good morning for you too, Mew. What time is it? I feel more rested today. Mew emerged from her kitten mode, blushing as she looked down. Mew chuckled and informed me that she was considering training your legs every day while you're away, assuming this would be beneficial. Naruto nodded and put them on, but at first, it was extremely difficult for him to move. See, these are as heavy as they can get. She turned her back and smiled. Hello Akasum. Naruto bowed deeply. Akasum smiled, explaining that the metal inside them is iridium. Each bar weighs about 100 pounds, and each strap contains about 6 bars, totaling 600 for each leg. Naruto groaned as he struggled to move at a snail's pace due to the heavy weights. He was accustomed to lifting 400 pounds with his legs, but this was an additional 200 pounds. Oh well, the day was off to a good start. Naruto resumed his basic leg training and fell several times, but he always got back up and continued until he finished. The morning was relatively pleasant, but Naruto was struggling to adjust to the heavy weights. You are free to proceed. There is no necessity for both of us to arrive late, it will simply require some time. Mew laughed. I am determined to remain with you. Additionally, I believe it would be beneficial for me to provide my assistance, given your enthusiasm for this training. Naruto smiled. Well, thanks Mew. Although I bet I'll get rid of these things when lunch starts, seriously, those trio guys will be all over me by then, and I don't want to kill them with this. Although the weights were heavy, he would likely die if he used them in combat. Despite this, he managed to acclimate to the weights efficiently to make it to school on time. As the day unfolded, he navigated between Naruto and Mew once more. Hey, what are you shaking, Bacon? I have more information for you to see. He was smiling wildly, with his forked tongue hanging out of his mouth. Naruto groaned, but let out a sigh. Of course, I had to listen. Naijima took out his vi. While researching the Ragnarok gang, it turns out that they are very powerful, going from a simple school gang to a citywide reputation. I managed to argue that there are 7 leaders, or as they are known, the 7 Adelphys of Naruto. However, it appears that the Casara girl is also part of the group. She is also being initiated to be a fist, which makes them the 8 deadly fists. The wholesale leader is the first fist, but their names are a mystery. The sources I possess do not provide their names, nor do I know their nicknames. Naruto hummed. I knew the story. If you base something on history, then maybe you would use it all. In Norse mythology, Odin was the god of gods. If the first fist represents the leader of the entire group, Dino, and he gestures thoughtfully before smiling, then Naruto is not a bad choice. That would be very possible and a probable nickname, but until they know more, I can't be sure. So for this information, I kind of told them your place for lunch at. Naruto struck him forcefully on the head, causing him to fall to the ground, writhing in pain. It's okay, there's no escaping it. Mew laughed. So you're going to face them, huh? You want my help, she? I would do everything I could, especially if this boxer was as tough as everyone thought. Naruto grinned and responded, thank you Mew. I appreciate your assistance, but it's not essential, they're pursuing me, and I'd prefer not to jeopardize your safety. Mew stood with her head held high, declaring, I will assist you. That concludes the matter. She then turned and began to walk toward the subsequent class. Naruto smiled as she told him. He did as she instructed and followed her. I just hope I can capture them, if not, they will kill me. Ugh, the elder's intelligence is already ruthless. The realization that I allowed them to cause you significant harm will be the end of me. The next class proceeded as usual, and Naruto was contemplating a fight with the person who would have taken his place in his studies. He hoped that his plans would work out for both of them, but improvising was a common occurrence in a fight, so he was grateful for the peaceful lunchtime. Miu stretched as she got up. Well, I guess today was safe. So see you after the gymnastics club, okay? Naruto smiled and gave her a hug. Miu blushed as he held her in his arms, but he let her go and smiled at us. Then Miu returned. Naruto smiled, then ran out and waved before heading back to class. Naruto walked towards the door after collecting his things, but unfortunately, luck was not on his side. Hey, guys, I think I found it. Haha, finishing with lunch rivers of gold is a good time for dessert to kick in the teeth. Naruto turned to see the trio waiting for him, only to discover that they were using the opposite side of the room, with the door still open. Naruto left his things sighing, you know, I'm kind of glad you had me found right now, and half irritated because you guys from Ragnarok want to fight me. Who has your asses in my business anyway? Yukita chuckled and walked over. You don't care, the only thing that really matters is that you come with us or we split the head wide open. Koga was chuckling like a kid in a candy store getting ready with some little warm-up punches and jumping. Naruto analyzed this, but didn't see much of any kind of shape, just some wild body movements. Yukita looked ready to a calm but energetic fight like a martial artist should feel like. Then there was Takeda. Takeda stood still calmly, with a cloudy expression, not caring much, except that his eyes darted towards him, which meant it wasn't just a lazy wanderer, but the way his body was not tense at all, suggested that he was relaxed. Naruto turned his head and sighed as he closed his eyes. I refuse to follow you anywhere, so if you think you can do anything against me, please reconsider or force me to do it without much difficulty. I will not assert that I am capable of defeating all three of you, but I am confident that I can easily defeat two of you. Please give it a try. Koga raised one arm as Yukita prepared to attack, but he roared. Hold on, big guy. I believe he is referring to me. If he is of my size, I assure you that I will damage your skull so severely that your brain will split in half. Let me have it like the first, big guy. Yukita remained behind while Koga advanced. Naruto remained motionless, his arms at his sides, his legs extended to his shoulders, his eyes scrutinizing the movements. He inhaled deeply and braced himself. Koga grinned and yelled, "You belong to me," before sprinting powerfully and swiftly towards Naruto. Naruto is jumping and spinning in a kick, rotating. Naruto raised his palm, took a step forward with the same side foot and caught the flying kick in his hand, leaving Koga surprised that he'd been caught. Once he caught the kick, he pushed forcefully without moving an inch, causing Koga to fly back 5 feet. Naruto then repositioned himself on his butt, giving him 2 more hits before retaliating. Show me I was wrong. Naruto put his left arm in his pocket and looked passive. Takeda looked at him and smiled. Good, nice pose, similar to mine, huh? I like the gesture, but I'm asking you nicely, he said. Takeda's menacing gaze flickered as he scowled, abandoning the mirror act, anticipating Koga's next move. Koga grinned, darted to the side, spotted the net fence, leaped up, and spun. Naruto swung around but didn't move at all, instead, he raised a hand and caught the kick in his hand. But that wasn't all, he moved forward as he did so. He was doing this, and this move caused Koga's body to swing down and be face down before Naruto dropped him, making him fall face first to the ground. He walked a bit. Last shot. It better be good. He turned towards Koga. He arched both of his arms out, with one arm raised and palm facing the sky to one side, while the other arm slid down, gazing at the ground to the side. Naruto's arms closed back, just as they had at the beginning, trapping the upper and lower parts of Koga's leg an inch away from his body. Naruto gazed directly into Koga's eyes. Sorry, Naruto, you're out. After knocking down the small boy outside, Naruto lifted his foot and gently slid it against Koga. Then, with a gentle but hasty short kick, he slid Koga's body out of the way to the side, leaving Yukita smiling. Yukita chuckled. Yeah, well, Koga was the weakest of us, his size didn't matter, and his kicks were good, but unlike us, he was just a kid flailing his legs like a yo-yo. We actually trained in martial arts. I see you have some training, but this is the end, you face me. Yukita entered the room with his arms raised, roaring. I will throw you off this roof. Just as Yukita was about to catch Naruto, he disappeared from sight. Suddenly, Yukita saw the sky, followed by a Tita at his backhand, then the ground, and finally, darkness. Naruto leaped from Yukita's shoulders, grabbed the back of his neck with both hands in a downward arc, and stomped hard on the ground with one foot. However, his other hand flew up and kicked one of Yukita's legs under him. With Yukita's balance on the ground, he used his strength to force it into an arc, slamming Kara's Yukita into the ground with great force. Naruto snorted, realizing that he was much bigger than I was used to. He straightened up again, using his leg to do the same action as Koga's, causing Yukita to slide to the side. He noticed that Takita's glasses were broken and his nose was red, but otherwise, the G-forces involved and the gravitational fall knocked him out. Takita looked at Naruto for a few minutes, letting the tension die down a bit to relax. Takita smiled. You have some good skills, I admit, but this is the end of the road, because now I have to make up for what you did to my friend Yukita. I see you have a girlfriend, but let me tell you one thing. Trying to play hero by saving your friends is just a stupid move. Naruto appeared to be hardened. If that's your personal belief, I firmly believe in protecting those I care about, regardless of the cost or the outcome, so allow me to offer you some advice. Stop trying to make me believe in your own twisted beliefs. Takita smiled, saying, how about you dig right and pull out a piece of chalk and a stopwatch? Let's be fair, eh? Naruto stood up and watched as Takita drew a white square on the ground with chalk, one corner was red and the other blue. Naruto looked at him and smiled. I understand you. I want an official fight, fair and equitable without a referee, but of course you are material for the league championship, and I am a word fighter. It will be fair. Takita went up to the rink and smiled. Here are the rules. 10 counts are 3 falls for a knockout. Basically if I count to 10 when you are on the ground, or if I knock you down, and I count 3 times it's a victory, because he threw the chalk into the air, and when it landed next to him he hit it with his right fist, and it turned into dust. He smiled more. I'm a professional, which means I don't you have it as easy as you had it with Kogakita. However I will tell you one thing, I will be a good guy, and I will only use my right fist. This made Naruto frown a lot. I don't want to seem rude, but it seems like you are underestimating me a little. I am not an amateur. I can handle both fists, win or lose, but something didn't quite fit him. It was too much of a coincidence. He earned the role a week ago with his right fist. He has only moved his right arm since he was seen by Naruto, and he used to be the best with his left fist in the pro leagues. Takita let his foot make the bell ring. Let's go. You can attack me with any style you have. I hear you also have kung fu, jujutsu, and karate. You can use each and every one of them, as well as any more you can have. Give me the best shot you can. With a sigh, Naruto gazed at the ring he had made, stepping into it with both feet. He then assumed his stance, raising one knee in front of him, one leg on the tips of his toes, and the other behind him. He tilted his body slightly to the side, bringing his arms up just above his chest. He held his forearms out in front of his face, his fists lowered. Upon looking at Takita, he smiled, revealing a new martial art to me. It doesn't look like the car had any kung fu that I have ever seen. Ding din, the fight has begun. Takita rushed up and gave him a strong blow, and soon his right fist hit Naruto's face directly. Naruto let the punch slide between his arms, but his foot was on the ground to the side, letting his right arm slide past his head to his left and hitting his left arm down, trapping the arm. Naruto first placed Takita in a headlock, then slid his foot forward, slamming his forearm and elbow into Takita's arm. Takita grunted as his arm took a nasty elbow near the shoulder, but he backed away, shaking his arm well. The blocking moves look like this or something similar. What do you think? Naruto smiled at Muita Kickboxer, a rival of Western boxers. I regret to inform you that, despite my proficiency in martial arts, I remain skeptical that I could defeat you in a conventional setting. Indeed, I am confident that you possess a formidable punch, even with only one arm. However, your defeat will result from underestimating my capabilities. Give me your best shot. Naruto sprinted quickly, his feet barely an inch off the ground, closing the distance more slowly than Tita anticipated. He couldn't get out of the way, as Naruto was at chest level with him. Take this. Naruto raised both fists, aiming at Takita's chin. However, Takita's diligent training of his upper body caused him to step aside and move away. The archaeologist leapt off the ground, his leg fully resting on the ground, and raised one knee to catch Takita's chin. Takita took a big step back, taking the time it seemed, and raised his fist, frowning. Naruto, having not yet attempted to land on the ground, but instead grabbed his knee and landed on Takita's shoulders. Combo 2 of Mui hit both elbows hard in an attempt to knock out Ta with a single blow. However, Takita's arm rose, blocking both of Mui's elbows before stomping the ground. With a strong punch, he sent Naruto to the ground. Naruto growled as he looked at the sky. He blocked it. That was my second strongest combo. Either way, that wasn't a single punch, it was 2 strong punches. Takita snorted with his arm outstretched. He saw Naruto on his back and tried to catch his breath to count. I'll start counting from 1 to 3. Yes, good punches. Takita halted as Naruto rose to his feet, forced to acknowledge Naruto's superior skill. Naruto smiled, wiping the blood from their lips. The first blow he received was in the Illas. He was lucky that his body was so durable. He silently expressed his gratitude to his masters, but the second blow struck his chin with such force that it cut his teeth severely, causing him to bite his tongue slightly. His canines were slightly larger and sharper than most, causing him to spit out some blood. Takita saw him and smiled, but little by little, it turned into a smile. That's all. Don't you love boxing? The thrill of a good fight. I can taste the blood in my mouth and feel the sweat flying with every hit. I don't care if I win or lose, I just want to fight. This is going to be a good fight. Naruto witnessed Takeda dash in, wielding a hook, but Takeda returned it before Naruto could catch it. Using the same arm, he rolled him up and struck him against his cheek, causing Naruto to sway back slightly and feel the second blow strike his gut. It is acceptable, I frequently engage in combat with my master, however, I had not observed any other individuals until the previous occasion. I am unfamiliar with Western boxing, and this individual surpasses the other two, who were superior to the bullies. I had to fight okay, but the speed of my legs is a dot at this moment. Naruto has abandoned his stance. Wait a moment. This can become dangerous if I use any kick with my paws forward. Fortunately, I remembered this before I kicked Koga. But this can be more difficult. Wait a moment. Takeda was about to object, but the alarm on his watch rang. He sighed and stood up straight. Okay, a short 1-minute rest. No more, no less. Takeda was to your corner, and Naruto went to his, sighing. Takeda looked back while Naruto lifted his pants legs and grimaced when he saw the enormous weights. He kicked Koga with all his weight and kicked Takeda's legs with those legs. He says he remembered and kept it on. Although I admit we didn't give him time to prepare, that's why it was so heavy on my shoulders. Oh, if I hadn't used them, then that knee would have killed me sooner. Keep calm. He's saying they are needed for 2 reasons. So as not to kill me, and because I might need extra speed, which means I'm better than he first thought. Naruto removed them with a relieved sigh. Despite having only started this morning, my speed hasn't significantly increased yet and I'm still as slow as a turtle. He'll be even with them now. Naruto shook his legs and left them on the ground. They looked at each other and Naruto was curious. Then tell me why you left professional boxing to become a thug. Takeda seemed a little surprised. His opponent asked him, wow, you don't have any tactics when asking about a boy's past, you'll lose your friends that way, you know. Naruto smiled warmly. I'm sorry, but it's something that bothers me. Someone with such championship potential suddenly turns away. He's going to become a bully, and you're not a bad guy, you're fair and kind-hearted. Takeda snorted and smiled. Well, anyway, you could do with losing some, to tell you the truth. They'll just abandon you when things get tough. I will also share a personal story. I believe that everyone should receive cautionary advice about friendship as it often leads to unnecessary suffering. And the pain. Naruto saw it in his eyes. The sorrow and pain of a man on a lonely journey. Takeda told him what Takeda recounted what had happened to his friend in boxing when he was still a professional, including the duro dynamic of boxing and the phone call he received the night before a match. Takeda sighed. To be honest, I didn't think I should go, he had a match the next day and I knew he was in danger. Indeed, my injury forced me to choose between my career and my friend, but before the narrative could conclude, the bell rang, signaling the start of the match. Naruto had already taken his position when the sound reached his ears and Takeda's expression hardened as the game concluded. He rested and with that, he rushed in, hoping to pressure Naruto into making a mistake. Naruto's focus shifted from the fight to his thoughts. In the brief moments he had with his close opponent, his story brought him down to earth. How does he approach genuine friendship and trust? Before abandoning his studies to become a thug, he was once a promising boxer. Since then, only his right arm has moved. Finally, Takeda confronted him, launching a swift barrage of punches. With Muay Thai's introduction of double arm protection, Naruto easily blocked high blows and mostly halted lower blows, but his fists were too strong for him to withstand. The rapids were too much to get used to for a few moments. Naruto raised one knee and used his other leg to jump forward, trying to throw Takeda back. However, this didn't work, as Takeda managed to get past him and dodge him. Naruto snorted, and while they both remained motionless for a moment, their minds were racing with ideas. Naruto thought of something Pachai taught him when he was still young. To predict blows by looking at the shoulder. He would work 3 times as hard to remember that, but first he needed to talk. I think I understand your choice was to go save your friend, and when you got into the fight, you somehow lost your ability to move your left arm. That's why you only used the right one. Takeda seemed a little surprised to see Naruto figure that out. He smiled sadly. Yes, you got it in one. When I went there I fought them, but one guy grabbed a lead weight and hit me pretty hard on the arm. The doctors said I was paralyzed forever and my career was over. My friend, though, he made his dream come true and took the championship, and then every time we saw each other, he was too busy to even say. The Takeda roared as he gave his fastest jab to date, stomping the ground for power, and Naruto caught him, but just as Takeda caught him, I was pushing against the fence. Wake up, no friend, you know will see that you're missing and will come to rescue you. I'm the closest thing to a friend you have, because I'm trying to make you realize the truth. Naruto delivered a powerful kick to Takeda's head, leaving him barely conscious. Takeda managed to dodge it before attempting to hit Naruto in the chest, but just as Naruto's leg touched the ground, he leaped up and struck Takeda hard in the stomach, forcing him to retreat while Naruto repositioned. Naruto stepped forward, his arms lowered. Naruto looked at Takeda 1, 2 and 3 and said, "You have no idea. Because we're in different classes this period, you thinks I'm in my class. If she knew I was here fighting you, she'd be here in an instant." Takeda stood up, grunting as he did so with seriousness. "Then, explain to me why he is not present. Share your perspective on friendship." Takeda threw another jack, but when Naruto attempted to block it, he backed away and then attempted an uppercut. Naruto went to block it again, but Takeda threw a strong hook, caught Naruto's cheek, and followed him. With a strong hook to the stomach, then a pulverizing punch to the head, knocking Naruto to the ground, Takeda took a step back, and 2 seconds later, Naruto stood up again. I heard a hint of blood dribbling from his mouth. Friendship is defined by those who unselfishly support each other in all circumstances, sacrificing everything for the good of their friends. Therefore, Naruto, don't lose hope in the world just because a man has turned against you. Both Naruto and Takeda turned to face Mew at the door. She looked at Naruto, a little bruised, but otherwise fine. She looked at Takeda. She roared, running towards Takeda, but Naruto ran in front of her, preventing him from looking at her over his shoulder. This is a fair match decided 1 by 1. Please let me take care of this as a martial artist. I must abide by the rules, and you too, Mew, seemed to object but smiled, raising the thumb. Don't worry, I will finish this and we will return home together. Mew looked worried but sighed, smiling. You better win big. You idiot, you owe me for your selfishness in taking these 3 by yourself. Naruto nodded and she took a step back, waiting for her to finish. Naruto smiled. Upon recognizing me, she fled. I warn you, do not assign failure to anybody. This is my ultimate combination, as one individual put it. Ui got into position quickly and Takeda flinched at first. Takeda quickly countered with a forceful blow, but Naruto swiftly moved away, delivering a powerful elbow to his ribcage. He then patiently awaited the height of his subsequent strike, a forceful downward elbow to the head, which caused Takeda to retreat, establishing his distance. Naruto twisted his body hard like a whip and his legs snapped. Naruto collided with Takeda's knee, causing him to stagger. However, this was not the final move in his combo. He kicked a leg that was very close to Takeda, spun backwards with his back to him, and slammed his right elbow hard against Takeda's chest, causing him to stagger. Mew saw this and was amazed. In her spars, she had never before demonstrated the combined techniques of individual styles. But that didn't mean that she didn't know them. She observed Takeda collapsing to the ground while Naruto approached, his guard indicating his direction. Takeda grunted as he tried to get up. You're good, see. Naruto started counting 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 t, but he was cut off from the knout while Takeda stood up on shaky legs. Naruto lowered his guard a bit just as you did, but this fight is entirely mine. Takeda smiled, still unable to fully comprehend the situation. I felt a bond of true friendship between us. Naruto smiled. You are right. When people fight, they show their true feelings. Martial artists do not speak with words, but with actions. We fight with our fists to settle the arguments. I felt like we connected during my assault. No matter who wins or loses, let's be friends, okay? Takeda raised his right arm to guard. Rendo, I'll take that last stretch here. Let's finish strong. Takeda rushed in again, but stopped and threw an uppercut. Naruto he dodged it easily, but Takeda threw him back hard. A punch at 100 disorients Naruto before continuing. Takeda blocked the high kick with his back leg towards his skull and slid his arm against the leg and towards Naruto's guard. Naruto blocked it, but the weight of his leg lifted Ada and Tita pushing him made him fall backwards against the slightly broken fence, making it explode. Naruto and I both fell off the roof. Takeda couldn't grab anything. He was panicking and feeling horrible for doing this to a new friend. Naruto smiled, don't worry, he turned down, then up, kicking high with his legs. Takeda found himself lying up, not down, and Mew caught him. However, he was crying when he saw Naruto fall faster to the ground. He thought, it's not okay. I finally have a true friend and he must die to protect me. Naruto looked down and saw a tree. He turned and put his legs between the branches, trapping him strong enough to resist his forces. He rolled, reducing his speed without hurting his body, and found the trunk of the tree, kicking him as he jumped down at an angle and landed on his feet. He sighed deeply before shaking. Note personal, he never fought in the air again, but he came out of the shadows and smiled, waving upwards. Mew smiled and started crying. Naruto, despite the possibility of your demise, I'm grateful for your miraculous recovery. You're truly remarkable. Takeda opened his eyes and smiled. He's good, but he's standing, and I don't want to lose him. As Naruto walked back there, Takeda lifted him up. Koga and Yukita had just woken up. Naruto smiled. Naruto Uzumaki said, "Hey, I'm sorry to say, but you missed it all." Naruto Uzumaki Yukita seemed surprised to see Takeda on his butt next to the blonde girl who had been staring at him earlier. I was certain that he would have thrown his butt to the ground. Wow, my head hurts. Koga grunted, holding his chest. That was heavy. I think you broke some ribs. Naruto nodded and looked at Mew and Takeda. Mew takes a nap. I have the big guy and the little guy, Takeda, who need a thorough examination by Asam Koga. Koga might need his bones put back in place, and Yukita could need a checkup. Mew smiled, grabbed Takeda, and picked him up. Okay, I'll see you there. Naruto shouted as he placed Yukita and Koga, a rag doll, on separate beds. Mew helped Takeda sit on his own bed instead of lying down. Naruto bowed to Akasum, smiling. I'm sorry I got into a skirmish. I think I broke the ribs of the little one and the big one. He might have an injured leg. I'm sure you know what the third one is here for. Please heal him. No, I know I don't want to get in trouble. Akasum sighed and smiled, of course. Plus, I can see that one or all of them are friends of yours. Now I'll take a look. You and Mew should remain out of the way. They accomplished this by observing how Kiss handled the situation. Sam fixed the ribs with Koga, similar to how he helped Naruto. Apparently, Yukita had a clean bill of health and a fixed nose to deal with, and he was grateful Akasum had finished quickly and efficiently, before turning to Takeda. He smiled then. Your friends appear to be in good hands. Let's see if I can heal you. What ails you? Takeda stiffened before turning his head and making a face. It's not necessary. Doctor. I'm not that scratchy. There's nothing that a good rest can't cure. Akasum smiled a little. I bet years of rest can't cure that paralyzed left arm. Takeda appeared surprised and muffled his response. No one said anything. My teacher, Asam, is more than capable of discovering things when it comes to human anatomy. How could you possibly have known that? Naruto smiled like a fox. Akasum walked over and grabbed Takeda's arm, making him groan in pain when he heard and felt his bones begin to move against each other. Akasum looked at me with great inner curiosity. His doctors must have been amateurs, they merely assisted in repositioning his broken arm, oblivious to the fact that the compression of his spine was causing discomfort. Takeda roared as he shook Akasum off with his left arm. He seemed surprised to see him move. He shakily put him down and looked at him straight. Mew laughed. Akasum is a genius in many arts, including martial arts, painting, sculpture, and even medical arts. For him, this was as simple as breathing. Naruto sat down, sighing. If anyone can help your arm heal and fix it, it's my sensei. Since we were friends, I thought it would be beneficial to provide you with all the help I could. I was pleased to see Takeda, who was almost crying with gratitude for his good fortune, smiling. Akasum was shocked to learn that I could finally return to boxing. Boxing, well, don't be ridiculous. Mew and Naruto just stood smiling warmly while Akasum chuckled. By the time I'm done with you, you can be a legend of professional arm wrestling. Takeda couldn't contain himself and hugged Akasum. Thank you. Oh God, this is the happiest day in my life. The tears ended. Shortly after receiving the order to return to the table, Takeda closed his eyes and relaxed while Akasum stood behind him, grinning. Casara bit his thumbnail and appeared hardened. The three were defeated only by him. Takeda was supposed to be a trump card, Suji, his rival in command of Ragnarok, but comrade anyway, he sighed deeply. I heard that he knocked down Koga with a single kick. Yukita was a 200-pound rag doll, but it seems that a witness from our gang saw him and Takeda fighting hard. It seems that Takeda was a good fighter against him. Casara stood up and walked forward, saying, I'm going to practice. Suji halted when he reached him, telling him to come here. Even if it meant nearly losing his life, he left to continue his training. He was so strong yet so young and so kind, Naruto. I want to see you again as your friend to show you my gratitude for being strong enough to return the favor. The thing is, I don't know if you're really close anymore. He heard a loud scream and gasp coming out of his thoughts and followed. The sound emanating from the nearby park was somewhat dark, yet the illumination from the nearby streets cast a luminous glow over the scene. 5 burly men in elegant business suits arrived at the source of the noise, laughing and smiling. The young schoolgirl gritted her teeth as the 5 burly men surrounded her, believing they could use her for their own selfish pleasure. She took a firm step towards Adante, but stopped when a figure suddenly appeared behind her, advancing rapidly and falling to the ground. The figure of a young fit man slid under a man, causing him to fall to the ground. She did not stop when the young man jumped, grabbed a second man by the nose, and struck him with a knee, rendering him unconscious. The young man turned, and Kaiser saw his piercing but kind blue eyes, hardened to protect her. Jade was taken aback when the light from Rebel's hair took on a golden yellow hue. The three standing men tried to crush him at the same time, but it was in vain as the young man adopted a posture with his arms outward but close to each other, his elbows on his stomach, and then to the left, his arm slid forcefully against his arm of a man and in his face, forcing him to retreat. His right arm strikes the arm of another man before turning and taking a step back with his arm extended. The last man ran towards him, reaching the young man and forcing him to fall while giving him a strong kick in the face. The young man turned to find the other two men and the first one who had stumbled before Aaron together again, but the young man's eyes focused and he grabbed the right man's arm, suddenly throwing the big man over his shoulder and to the ground, but he didn't stop as he grabbed the left man's leg with his own. This was surprising when he turned around, making the left man spin completely backwards and onto his knees and grabbing the man's arm from the middle, pulling it hard to the left and crashing from the left, hitting them hard against each other and knocking them out too. The young man rose to his feet and the girl, upon seeing the fallen boys, smiled with tears in her eyes. "Thank you. You're a savior. You have no idea how grateful I am. Please let me see your face. I want to know your name. I want to meet the man who saved my life." Kaiser saw the young man's eyes widen, but he turned to the girl. The light was still dim and his face was still covered in darkness. But Kaiser saw one more feature. 3 light marks on his left cheek. The young man stepped back and bowed. She accelerated past the first streetlight and saw a uniform from her school. When it started to catch him, he noticed her and tried to run faster and faster. She pulled and screamed, "Stop. I beg you." It was a moment before he started to slow down. But when she saw this, she did too. Before they finally stopped, she was at the edge of the glow of a street lamp and on the other hand, she was huffing. She wasn't used to running so fast or so far. Naruto remained motionless, his head slightly bent, before rising to his feet. Catching his breath, "I saw what you did. You saved someone from being forced into a trap against her will. You saved a girl from being hurt by those bullies who sought to hurt her. You are a good man." But she saw him raise his head and she seemed hardened, waiting. "She is not the first truth beyond all hope. Did you save others? Tell me. Do you remember a girl years ago with red clothes, hair, and a black cat in her arms?" Naruto stood completely still as a statue before turning his head slightly, his left cheek showing the 3 marks in the light and his blue eyes and sky shining warmly towards her. He nodded. She took a step forward, putting a hand on her chest as she showed him her face. "That girl, the one you saved from a stray dog, wants to talk to you. She wants to thank you. I know you don't want to be seen like this now. Perhaps your body is in a state of flight right now, making it easy for you to lose me, but I want to talk to you." Naruto turned her head towards him, took a few steps away, and stood in the center of the light, pleading for his attention. Naruto could practically feel that his tears were beginning to boil. He stopped and turned to her. The darkness kept him masked. After all, it was a new moon. Tonight, Casara looked down, holding his shirt to his chest. "Tomorrow, if you're still walking, please meet me at Garter's warehouse. I want to meet you and thank you. Please give me at least this, so maybe we can be friends." She kept her eyes closed, trying not to cry. For a few moments, she thought he would never respond. She was about to give up. "You are finally back in my life. Oh, thank God." With that, she felt determined and ran to the gym, where she went and practiced until she fell exhausted, ending up making kitty madness. 13-year-old Mu was walking around Rosenpaku after lunch to give everyone some tea. It was recess time, and Naruto was on the floor resting. Mu was about to wake him up when she noticed his face calm and the way his whiskers moved as he breathed silently through his mouth. His eyes sparkled as the image of a sleeping cat took Naruto's place, and she approached him. "Kitten cute. Ah, sorry, sensei, I didn't want to rest during training." Muran laughed as she rubbed her face against his chest and he looked around in fear before relaxing. Seeing Mu like that, he blushed a lot. "Mu, I'm not a stuffed animal." "Jasmine Naruto, okay. Goodbye." With that, she ran off to make the tea. Before his head smoked and he fell onto his back, Naruto stood motionless. 2 years later, Mu was walking towards her room when she noticed Naruto using another training device that required him to run on all 4 legs. However, a cat, moving swiftly down the street and dropping his bag, replaced them. Naruto tensed, sensing a potential threat. Mu pulled Naruto out of the large machine by striking him between a bar under the upper part of her back and her chest, pressing generously against his. She blushed very red and steam poured out of her entire head, from her neck to the ends of her hair. Mu was rubbing her cheek against his cute. Naruto laughed nervously and growled. Pain from the bar below him. My back is like a splinter from the pole that is pressing against it." Mu awoke from her trance and leapt up, her face flushing with shame. "I apologize. I will search for Akasum. He will promptly address the situation. See you." He then bolted off at an incredible pace, grabbing her bag, which had a stretched strap while it was at rest in midair, before departing with it. Naruto blinked, still blushing heavily. Maybe I should put on a mask, these whiskers will kill me one day. With that, she resigned herself to sitting on the side of the room. Naruto roared as he slid down, swinging one leg back and trying to trip Mew Mew. Mew jumped high and used gravity, putting one leg down and holding the other up. Furinjiko Yuko spun as she fell on top of Naruto. Naruto regained his balance and launched a forceful kick into the air, his legs colliding with Naruto's whirling punch and Mew's tumbling descent. A ferocious nightmare unfolded before him, causing Mew to tumble backward. Despite Naruto's lack of agility in the air, he managed to regain his footing with ease. Mew flew towards Naruto, turning forward and performing a double rolling kick at a high speed, but she found Naruto grabbed one leg and grabbed her shoulder with the other. She raised her body and slammed her double fist against Naruto. Naruto was a risk-taker, willing to accept any type of damage he deemed appropriate in order to deliver more. His greatest strength was his endurance, vigor, and hard body, forged to withstand even blows. By Apichi Mew was aware of this, and by fighting separately, she was jeopardizing both her and his chances. Naruto prevailed in half of his battles with the teachers, yet he still lost. Mew's luck might have been less favorable, but she still faced a significant challenge. Mew's ability to withstand the blows necessary for training against each other was a different story. Naruto rolled with a blow and pinned her to the ground by hitting an elbow into her side and taking that forearm to keep her arm bent behind her head as she sat up. He trapped the other leg, the only one capable of striking him, between his neck and her body. He groaned as she attempted to use the strength of her legs to lean over him. Even a successful Naruto grunted and used Mew's body to leverage and push. As Mew attempted to turn and get back into the fight, Naruto struck her stomach with two fists and cupped hands, forcing her off the mat. Usually, in their sparring sessions, Naruto's ability to absorb small damage and then use it to inflict greater damage was unbeatable. Naruto's ability to absorb minor damage and then use it to inflict greater damage proved to be unbreakable. Mew groaned as she got up but got back into position. Naruto took a deep breath and returned to his. This was their last mutual move during the fight, and the teachers were watching so that Mew wanted to push Naruto very far into a corner to come out and show that she had him inside. She roared, spinning and launching strong kicks, punches, and flying slashes to the head and chest. Her speed and grace were impossible to block by any normal martial artist, and Naruto was a little impressed by her spinning grace to attack him. But that didn't deter him from going against her and winning. Naruto dodged the first leg's kick on his neck, but the second leg reached his shoulder, causing a severe cut. Despite this, he maneuvered alongside her, launching a powerful hook at Mew's midsection. However, Mew countered with a bolo, hurling herself towards the ceiling as he launched his attack. He mastered the ancient technique known as the Rising Phoenix Palm a long time ago. Since then, she hasn't used it. Mew flew through the roof and hit the front yard. She moaned as she tried to get up. Naruto ran out and the teachers gathered to check on her. Nar came over and helped her up. Sorry, Mew, I overdid it. Mildly laughing, Mew moans from her bruised rib. Don't worry, it's only a minor bruise, it's nothing too serious. You're doing great as I previously mentioned, and you're stronger than me. Naruto sighed. I gave her a quick hug before leaving. Sensei approached him, saying, very good job. You are very skilled in the talents you have. Using my technique was a very good move, but you risk too much with your skills. Naruto gently chuckled as he extended his arms. Well, it's true that your skills don't always perform as expected in a fight, relying on my abilities is the most effective way to utilize them. After all, if a skill is good enough to be considered an all-purpose technique for all hitting, you should always be able to catch your opponent, so why would you need more than 10 techniques? The old man gave him a pat on the back, acknowledging that he indeed possessed hundreds of unique techniques. Therefore, I have a deeper understanding of your origins than anyone else. Although you didn't want to hurt a friend, you still gave it your best shot because it would help both of you grow as martial artists. Naruto smiled and nodded, but then frowned, thinking about their recent fights. The old man held Naruto's shoulder and sighed deeply. I'm afraid there are several reasons for this. Firstly, you're so accustomed to our techniques, speeds, and styles that the change doesn't immediately register in your system when you venture out into the world today. Secondly, our styles integrate multiple styles into a single master form, such as the master form of Jiu-Jitsu or all forms of Chinese martial arts. This, in turn, makes you ignore the dangers that other styles present in comparison, and because you are not used to other people's movements, the old man began to walk away. Learn to identify and put into practice what you learn, as well as the ability to adapt to everything else. This is the ultimate test of skill that you must master before progressing to the next level in both life and martial arts. Naruto looked towards the sky. I think I need to remember that the world of martial arts is bigger than this dojo or your masters, and also much more different when faced with those who can adapt to you. Instead of playing along, he said this is gone to train with Sakaki Kensei. He went with the old man, sighing. It seems that he is only recovering a little. He is becoming more overwhelming and more humble, thanks to his fights in the world that awaits him, but he still has difficulty choosing a path when he will improve. I don't know about him, but I don't know. He is unable to cultivate a love-filled heart due to his lack of acceptance. It's true that Taro is thoughtful, but time will tell. If he crosses the line, I'll throw him into Los Lobos del Amor and hope for the best, but until then, we must continue to support him. In any way we can, he remains a martial artist, possessing great skill, talent, and a good heart, which he will continue to possess even in the absence of love. Seal your heart away from it. Akasum hummed as he sat against the door railing, and if it's true that he's a immune fighter, he could be dangerous. That's more important to me than any skill I can train him in. Sensei sat down and crossed his arms over his sleeves. I talked to my father, and he told me that I needed to think about the special techniques of the Ma family. If I can teach him these, it will be much easier for him to find the love he needs. Even with the old man Taro, while twisting his beard, I created quite a sturdy armor around his heart, but your techniques are very skilled. If you think they have a chance, then I say it's good to let us have you here. Asum looked at Kasei, then Rinka. He's still in China. Kasei hummed heavily, sighing as he tried to think of a way to escape the crossfire. My wife is a little upset that she was here so long and probably came here without resentment, but I received a call from an old friend who had seen a mom flying into the field. The woman also chuckled as Dirk continued touching his beard. I understand your point, but whether Remka or your wife are here, it would be nice to ask about it. Sensei nodded, but in any case one or both of them are angry with me, so I will have to stay hidden until I find a way to avoid being forced to back down on the last letter they gave me. Sent Rinka wanted to talk to Naruto, but I told him he wasn't in Ryo's Zanpaku, and after that he never received another letter from her. Akasum sighed deeply. That would be a problem for you, and for Naruto. Rinka might want revenge, and seeing that she loves him enough to do this, I think it is prudent to gather information without confronting them, yet the old man nodded, so we waited for the information to divide our options, and we wish for the best. Kensei tonight, you will not be able to do the daily tasks, so you have to do so. Which will give Naruto the rest he needs and you enough work to get your mind working and get answers for all of us. Kensei nodded and stood up. I will inform Naruto to grab some of the ingredients needed for my 5-star Chinese cuisine. Maybe he can find a way to open up with less fighting and more outside influence in the normal world around us. As Kensei exited the room, he noticed Naruto, who had been with Sakaki for the last half, demonstrating an advanced move based on the Motode stance and karate style. This move appeared to be a potent combination of the Motode stance and karate style, utilizing a significant portion of his arms and swift steps to leverage the earth's weight to propel Naruto forward. He was performing the usual expected exercise for the techniques, doing it over and over again until he was sure he had achieved it, which took almost 2 full days and a total of around 8 hours straight without breaks, but his training for all masters didn't fall behind. Kasei came over and smiled. I mentioned that the linear technique was good and could be effective, but unfortunately, we need to shorten it right now. I need you to go to town and buy some dinner ingredients for me. Since Mew is still recovering, what will I do tonight? Naruto sighed deeply, looking down with guilt. I didn't mean to hit him so hard. But I guess it's too late. Alright, give me the list, and I'll leave and come back. He wrapped his arms loosely as quickly as possible, knowing that he needed to be quick to continue his training. Kasei handed him a list on a piece of paper and bowed, emphasizing that he needed to be precise and thorough in order to complete the task. Naruto smiled after carefully reading the list. Yes, I eat all your dishes. So get ready for dinner. I will return with every piece of food you need. See you, Sifu-sensei. He ran quite slowly. Compared to his usual pace, he walked slowly out the door and through the streets. Kensei let out a sigh, Sakaki gave a slight snort, and I suggested that he should visit Akasum's special place soon. Kensei's eyes gleamed as he smiled, demonstrating perfect training for his moves. However, he needs my guidance before he can attempt them. Sakaki shrugged as he walked back to the dojo. Sure, but don't wait too long, you never know when he'll need that training. See you around at dinner and tell me when he comes back so I can train him. Running down the street as fast as he could with his load, Naruto began to notice a line and a block of guys in front of him. Although I hadn't seen any of them before, the expressions on their faces revealed their unfriendliness. The man in the middle, with his long, spiky hair, stood out as a man of great integrity. A Kaiser would appreciate your kindness. Naruto narrowed his eyes again at her, saying, I understand she helps run a giant gang, but how many of you is she willing to lose for my attention because she got it enough to want to kick him the butt, although I won't do it. Follow them anywhere. She must come to me or risk losing everything. Suji chuckled and grinned wildly. Maybe a park. How about that? Naruto thought about it. If he refuses, he will have to fight against these guys and he wants to train with everyone. Anyway, so it's a good idea. Naturally, we live in a civilized society where it's forbidden to harm strangers. Therefore, engaging in conversation with them and providing them with a compelling reason to beat them to a pulp was a wise move. Asuki nodded, followed by his men, and Naruto soon discovered a nearby construction site. Yui glanced at Naruto and directly addressed him, saying, "I want you to join my team." Naruto appeared hardened, sighing as he crossed his arms. "Listen, Casara's team is coming towards you, and if they can, they will launch every type of martial art and level of fighter that can take you down. I hate to see a fighter of your caliber taken down because Casara wanted you dead." Suji gestured to his men. "Join my crew and I will provide you with protection. Perhaps she is the only one in the same league as my fighters, and even in that case, I can still protect you. I will ensure that they never come close by joining me. I could benefit from having a man like you on my team." Naruto frowned as he looked at Suji. "Why are you expressing this, and would you prefer that I refrain from expressing it? It appears that my skills are the sole reason I'm inquiring about this individual's trustworthiness, which is based on his life decisions and methods. It would be more beneficial for him to consider this if he was aware that Suji had lifted a finger in the air. It's evident that the quantity of men determines the worth of an individual such as myself. Under your command, with more and more people in my private army, I will have the largest and most powerful group in Ragnarok." Naruto seemed intensely hardened. "Joining your gang in Ragnarok does not guarantee me security from another group of the same gang, plus I don't want or need protection if I end up fighting and Lucho wins or loses. But either way, I will continue to travel the path of the martial artist and I will be the best I can be, so joining you wouldn't make sense." Jai growled, glaring at him sharply. "You think you're a smart guy, huh?" Naruto clenched his hands into fists, stating that your continued affiliation with a gang and your tendency to prey on the weak provide ample evidence that you don't value respect based solely on your power. Suji roared while pointing his finger. "We don't require such sophisticated reasoning, it's simply not necessary. A person like you can understand that the greatest desire of a man in the world is to be free, and what my men and I do has to do with freedom." Naruto gritted his teeth. "Yes, of course he can be free because you believe you have the power, but you are completely wrong. You are imbecile tyrants who use your freedom and the power you have gained to rule others and enslave them to your will, so to begin with, your logic is." Naruto exhaled deeply, calming down. "They are ignorant of the true meaning of freedom, and even if they did, I would not join them. You are all fools who only desire a beating." Suji stomped on the ground, hitting it and creating a small crater. "That's you and I fighting here, and now, hand in hand, you insulted our way of life, which is something that I don't like." Naruto closed his eyes. Suji took off his coat, revealing his muscular chest. "They have always solved their disagreements with their fists. From the beginning of time, they would fight if words didn't apply to them. Now let's solve the problems." Our Suji fled, flying wildly with a right hook, but Naruto was by his side and pushed him. Naruto scoffed. "No one said to start yet. Plus, I need to do this as best as I can." Naruto bent down and pulled up his pants, taking off the weights and loosening the knots much better. Sui smiled and turned around in time to see them, "The same ones you almost killed, Koga with cute training all the time, good philosophy. But that won't save you. Let's move on." Suji ran again, throwing a savage hook with his left hand. This time Naruto was sliding to the side and staying behind him. Sui didn't see it coming, but Naruto grabbed his back arm, turned back, threw Suji to the ground, and punched him right in the shoulder. Suji growled and threw a hook with his other arm, causing Naruto to back away. However, Suji used the hit on his other arm to push Naruto's chest, prompting Naruto to retaliate. Naruto didn't see a typical style for this guy, but that didn't stop him from fighting as best he could. Naruto came in spinning under Tsuji's hook, grabbing him by the shoulder and throwing him to the ground again. Suji wasn't so easy anymore. He grabbed Naruto's sleeve, and this time he rolled backwards, forcefully lifting Naruto into the air. Before Suji could slam him front or back into the ground, Naruto swung his legs back and trapped himself in the ground. He saw Tsui trying to pull him, but his legs were too strong and his body centered behind him, so the weight was evenly distributed. But not for long, Naruto moved his center of gravity forward, making them begin to fall backwards. Naruto raised an arm that was hooked around Tsuji's arm and shoulder and slammed him against Tsuji's chest, which farted as he hit the ground. At the same time, a good amount of wind was expelled from him. Before Tsuji groaned, Naruto stood up and walked away, shrugging his shoulders to free himself from the grip he was in. Standing up and smiling were indeed good moves. "It's unfortunate that I must break your body into pieces due to your foolishness, but this is entirely your fault." Naruto had been calm and calculated throughout his fight, but this time he would unleash his inner fighter. If you are determined to fight for your lifestyle, then you must do so. Ask anyone you torment if they feel free and see if they agree that you're giving it to them. If you want to fight me as a martial artist, there's only one way to do it, and that's by fighting me. Right now, Naruto ran forward, approaching and sliding a hook hard towards Tsuji's chin. However, Suji leaned back, took a deep breath, and then slammed his head down. The force now connects the fist and skull. Normally, Naruto's hand would shatter into pieces, but Yuji assured him that the skull, due to its strength and experience, could withstand a powerful blow. Sadly, this was not the case. Suji growled, holding his head as he walked away from Naruto, who took a step back and extended his fist. "Don't insult me." Suji's vision blurred, making it difficult for him to discern whether he was lying on his back or floating in midair. Naruto practiced giving maximum power in a single punch by hardening his fists and knuckles to the point where they were almost solid steel. In addition to the surprisingly common but unpracticed technique of sliding the front knuckles first and using them as an extended target point for the rest of the fist, effectively giving double power in one punch. He consistently used this technique in his punches, and his fist remained fine. Suji's hair may have turned a little pink due to his continued contact with the skull bone, but his overall appearance was still red. Still wobbly, Suji held his head for a moment before smiling, which surprised me. "That's better than I thought. I better start making big moves now." Suji ran forward, and Naruto took a step back to get some distance, but Suji took an extra long step on his leg and landed a hard punch on him. Naruto grabbed the arm and pushed it down, moving forward while kicking and kneeing Suji in the ribs. Suji backed away, and Naruto stepped back a little further. Naruto now realized that he required additional experience fighting against others to enhance his understanding of his limitations and learn how to combat a wider variety of fighting styles, or the absence thereof. At times, Suji would smile while holding his ribs, a combination that proved to be quite effective. "Unfortunately, you need more than that to defeat me, and I will give it to you, forward tyrant." Jai roared in anger and stood up, throwing a variety of punches and japes, a kick or two even, to knock Naruto out of his element. Naruto blocked the blows like clockwork, taking steps back and forward to get the perfect distance by raising his leg for each kick, simply blocking and dodging. As he watched Suji get faster and stronger, he needed a chance before he could launch his own attack, and he was very skilled. Unlike Suji, Naruto launched a punch from behind his head and Suji put his hands together, but when he saw that Naruto was still throwing the punch, he ducked. It was a bad move, as it was a downward spiral punch that sent Suji's head into the gravel, but Naruto grabbed him by the hair and held him back. Naruto also possessed extensive experience in fighting, including recent encounters where he gained insight into his own appearance in comparison to other individuals. "Suji, I wouldn't know much." Suji stood up, smiling, and said, "You're not bad. You're very good. You are truly an exceptional fighter, but regrettably, this is the end for you. I still possess my senses, and I have the power to overcome you." Naruto was aware of this man's skill as a fighter. Despite facing numerous blows, he continued to stand and fight valiantly, but he was determined not to surrender. This time, Naruto came in, sliding a strong kick towards Tsuji's lower section. Suji jumped over the kick in his shin and moved his fingers down and forward to grab Naruto, but to no avail as Naruto leaned back and dodged it. Suji got on all fours before getting up and throwing a strong punch. Naruto turned sideways, but Suji grabbed his sleeve. This was somewhat unexpected, but Naruto didn't let it deter him. He turned and slammed his elbow into Tsuji's skull, hoping it would pierce the thick bone and make Suji understand his defeat. However, his elbow was a sensitive part and now it hurt a little from the impact. Suji groaned as he once again saw stars. Everyone who was watching so far was amazed that they were still in it and Naruto was practically there, and Lizo Tsuji got back into position, smiling more. "Now I understand why they gave him butt to that boxer. You are an excellent fighter and a wonder in the ring, from what I understand. But a fight is not about style, it's about your instinct." Suji moved forward again, but Naruto noticed, turned, and slid his leg in the air and down to Tsui's neck. Normally, this would discourage any fighter with decent skill and experience, but Naruto was incredibly skilled and had more experience, so instead from a standing position, Naruto tightly wrapped his leg around Tsuji's arms and neck. He then lifted his other leg behind Suji, looped it around his waist, and fell to the ground, first rolling and then trapping Tsuji's legs in place. He slapped them under Tsuji, causing him to fall forward and lose his balance, and Naruto rolled, throwing Tsui back and onto the ground once again. He rolled back and stood up, staring as he watched Suji once again rise from the impact. Naruto, he wasn't a fool. When it came to enduring punishment, Suji proved to be more resilient than he had previously believed. Even if that were the case, Suji was determined to confront and defeat him. Even if he had to create a demolition zone, not a construction site, Suji, he growled, and by then he was a wild beast, just raging and throwing fists and feet, kicking and punching, and throwing all his soul to break Naruto like a twig, and it seemed like it might be a little better. This time, Naruto skillfully dodged each blow, leaning back, sliding to the side, maneuvering behind him, crouching, jumping back, and rolling everywhere. Observing Tsuji's ferocious demeanor was somewhat disconcerting. Witnessing a fighter of such ferocity was a unique and unusual experience, surpassing even Sakaki and Apachai in their wildness. Naruto elbowed Tsui's arm, pushing him towards him, but Tsui used this to lift his other elbow more forcefully and quickly. Naruto dove again and slammed a hard right into Tsui's ribs, and while Tsuji staggered, he took a step, grabbed Tsuji's head from behind, and lifted him up. Naruto grunted when his knee made contact with Tsui's head. Suji blocked it with both hands, and Naruto used this as leverage to twist his body behind Cab's head. Suji clung to his neck and rolled backwards forcefully, using his hands for support and his feet and ankles to hook Tsuji's shoulders, lift him up, and slam his face first into the ground. After flying into the air, Naruto rolled forward and stood back up. In position, sighing deeply, he thought this could be the end of this whole fight, but Suji was not done yet. Suji jumped back and ran towards Adante, kicking his head forward and attacking Naruto, and Naruto realized this quickly, forcing his legs back to stop moving and remain standing. As he saw Tsui trying to lift him up, he raised his elbow and the other hand in his fist, slamming his elbow hard into Tsui's back rib. The impact was enough to cause Tsui a good amount of pain to stop his lifting, and this was the mistake in letting him slide as Naruto crouched down and lifted Tsuji's hips, and using his own instinct, he jumped back. His body twisted as he held Tsui close and made Tsuji's stomach he hit the ground first, making him let go as well, and that gave him time to jump away, huffing and looking at Atsui. You are a very experienced and very skilled fighter, but you have no idea the hell I've been through. You can't defeat me this way. He let his guard down, and this was the biggest mistake Naruto would ever make that day. When Tsui suddenly jumped and slid on the ground, grabbing his legs around Naruto's, locking them tightly, and spinning around, taking Naruto to the ground, Naruto groaned in pain as Tsuji let go. His big butt landed hard on his stomach, and he pulled forcefully on one of his legs, believing he still had the strength to break it. Tsuji smiled into my eyes. You have value as a man of freedom, but if you are not part of my crew, I will destroy you. I might as well rip you off. The leg Naruto grunted slightly in pain, feeling the burn. However, each day, his teachers intensified the pain to a point where it was unbearable. Naruto rolled to the other side, gasping as he stood up, his legs shaky but still functional. They were there. Maybe I want to take him to the hospital or something. Maybe he needs medical attention. Naruto walked away, and seeing the time, he realized he needed to go shopping. But he also had a schedule to meet someone today. The girl he saved in the past sighed, and he thought about the moment he thought he was going to go shopping. Why didn't he put the shopping on hold until he was done with the girl and headed to the warehouse at the address they had given him? He saw it was a little worn but still good. Naruto entered through the front door and walked through the building while shouting. Hello, it's Naruto from last night. You wanted me here. Where are you? Hello, it's me, Naruto. You wanted me here. At first, the screams continued and he screamed once again. This time, he got attention and the door opened, showing a boy with an elegant costume and blonde hair. I see that you don't. We need to send a group to find you. Come on, Casara. I was waiting for you. Naruto's eyes opened. He seemed hardened, but he nodded. He entered through the door and the man with blonde hair and elegant clothes left the room. He saw the same girl he saw last night, the one he now sees. Called Casara, she was wiping the sweat from her neck and forehead. She smiled. Her eyes were bright and friendly. I'm incredibly happy that you were able to attend. I'm suddenly sorry. I'm so excited. I can't help but move my body. She wants to train harder to match you. Naruto still looked hardened and she appeared somewhat fatigued, her eyes, which were still warm beneath, turned cold and piercing as she walked, humming. I see Casara, the same Casara whom I saved, trying to kill me with thugs. The same Casara working for a gang as an executive member and using his power against the weak as if he were superior. What is your game? Trying to kill me because I couldn't save your cat that day. He was aware of everything up to this point, yet he remained oblivious to his own thoughts or the reasons behind his tough extra embarrassed. She looked down, tossed the towel aside, walked to her swivel chair, and turned it the wrong way. Ong. Naruto as she picked up her black cat, which had grown since the last time she saw it, and meowed, she smiled softly and caressed him. Other. He sat with Noir on his lap. Naruto took the chair, bringing it closer, but without sitting down, Casara sighed, smiling sadly. How could what you said be what you know? In your eyes, I may seem like a bad person, but I'm not bad, in fact, I got into martial arts. Thanks to you, Naruto scoffed. Now you're using him to hurt others. Casara shook her head. No, I'm not. I swear. She looked at him with teary eyes. I grew up and my parents separated. It's difficult to experience the loss of such a strong connection. But also while I was training in my martial arts, just because I was a girl, the boys were soft on me. I was just a girl in their eyes, a fover. During my martial arts training, I noticed that, simply because I was a girl, the boys would often treat me with a lack of challenge, as if I wasn't worthy of their attention. They seemed to find it amusing to see me as merely a girl, and I felt compelled to conform to their expectations. Grew up within martial arts, had my feelings for Naruto. He looked down, feeling a little sorry for the Satuid. It's not often that you cross paths with an old friend, especially since he was the one who saved her. It made sense to consider the possibility that she was attempting to verify his authenticity and confirm if he was indeed the same boy. Boy. When I heard your name, Casara looked up, smiled. Naruto, upon seeing your picture of that spiky blonde with warm blue eyes, I was filled with hope. Beyond all hope, I had to maintain my tough exterior and my composure as a leader here, as it wouldn't be right to insult the only person I admired after your departure. Effed. Naruto, I was curious. If there was another person I looked up to, why was that so important? Casara laughed. Lie as a fragile girl, Freya was an idol to me. Her ability to compete with any man and emerge victorious was a testament to her skills, which greatly aided me. Ped. I realized that I needed to train harder and prove that I had enough skills to take the boys seriously. Naruto now made the decision to sit down, settling into the chair. As she smiled at him, it became clear that she had used weapons, but I don't hold that against her. I'm just not. Who uses weapons, so I didn't do it, and that seemed to marginalize me from the rest of his Valkyrie troop. I just wanted to do it. My way, that was so wrong. Naruto shook his head, sighing as he let his guard down. This time, you didn't do it right. Do as you please, as martial arts still revolve around your ability to exert pressure in the art of combat. And she gazed at him in astonishment, yet her smile was filled with joy as she caressed Noir and gazed at her. She expressed her gratitude for all the efforts you've made to save me and others, to save Noir, and to shield both the strong and the weak, simply because of your unwavering commitment to doing the right thing. Ned, to do the right thing. It may be from Ragnarok, but I didn't do any of that, even though I did. Naruto finished this sentence for her and dispatched those who had bullied her. Casara nodded, letting out a deep sigh. He saw her cry more, and he himself sighed deeply. He wiped the tears from her cheeks and lifted her head. Kaiser looked at him slightly, surprised at what he did for her, and he smiled. Just make sure you don't let that happen again. Maybe then you can have a better gang. One for Justice smiled, sobbing and drying his eyes. Yes, I still need time to think. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't know whether to leave it and try to do it on my own, possibly with you as my friend, or continue here. I'm considering the possibility of severing all potential connections with you, while also ensuring that I don't offend Freya. Naruto smiled and nodded as he stood up. I understand. Just to clarify, if you choose to fight for justice, you can continue to be a part of this gang and remain my friend. However, if you don't, I will still oppose the entire Ragnarok operation. He turned and walked towards the door, but before he reached it, he smiled. I hope it wasn't valuable to see you, he said. Suji will probably come back with a dizzy head, so I hope it wasn't valuable to see you. Casara shed a few more tears, but then sighed and gave him a firm squeeze. Be okay, and if you need anything, just come by and ask. See you soon. Naruto exited the building. She looked up at the bright sky, smiling. Today seems like a wonderful day to me. Maybe I bought something for myself to help her get better, and with that she went out to pick up the food. Casara note, here you have many ways much awaited. Casara looked at the photo in the file that they gave her, and she saw the marks of the whiskers on her face. Now she was huge with the cats not going next to her and meowing, and when she saw this image she felt an inner conflict. She coughed into her hand. Leave me a few minutes. No one. He moved. They just looked at each other. She was twisted. Now jackass, let's go get show. That started a fire in their butts, and they walked out. The door slammed behind them all. He looked at the picture again, then all hell broke loose. Kitty, huh? Cute kitty was milling around in his swivel chair, purring as he rubbed the picture against his cheek, her chest meowing from time to time. Thank God she had this room soundproof, so no one could hear her, because she would be the laughing asthma of Ragnarok at the end of dinner. How cute, heh, I love these kittens. A few days later, Casara was in the park's bushes, watching a group of boys trying to take advantage of her. Before she could get up, a man approached her at full speed, kicked everyone's ass, and saved the girl from them. The girl and the boy engaged in a brief conversation, and as he departed, the light revealed a portion of his face and mustache. This did not sit well with the city society. Kitten. How cute. And she here ran after him, chasing him, watching him run under the limelight, and showing his mustaches more and more. He continued chasing. His face rose. His mouth took on a three-sided shape. He grew fake mustaches and his eyes became bright and round. Slit pupils, however. I love Kitten so much, kitty, kitty, kitty. Naruto sprinted faster, but she maintained the pace because she adored his whiskers. He let out a scream. Why did his whiskers always seem to get him into trouble? He swore he would get a mask. I'm not a kitten, even if my skin were hers. Naruto walked into the room. The elegant-looking man walked out and closed the door. He turned to see Casara wiping her face. Take a seat. It's good to see you finally again. I thought Naruto would never feel a shiver ran down his spine and he swallowed loudly, sweating, when he noticed Kaiser's features changing. His eyes grew and became big and round. Fake mustaches appeared. His mouth was once again divided into 3 sections. Not bold. Good. Didn't she jumped on him and rubbed her face and body against his chest, neck and cheeks, purring loudly like a real cat. She cried as he attempted to crawl away, trying to free himself from her. I'm neither a cat nor a kitten. Get off arc. He continued to slide across the floor, but it was in vain, as she simply climbed back up his body. Rubbing his suggestively, she tried. He moaned, taking a lever, placing it between them, and pulling so hard it broke. He put on a mask and tried to cut them with a welding cutter, but not only the laws of physics did not burn them to ashes. But she stayed. He groaned and put a rope around her waist, placing it around the steel beam. Jumping back and pouting out the window to try and let gravity release him, the rope tightened. And apparently he pulled on her fusion, but she kept going, even wrapping her legs around him and holding him. What was really strange was that everything in the warehouse collapsed around him as they fell to the ground and not a single piece of rubble hit them. He got up. She was still on him and he tried to pull her out using all the walls, beams, bars and rods everywhere, but he cried because she was still holding on. He lay down crying war somehow. Surviving came closer, caressed his other cheek, and purred too. Casara continued to laugh and purr, reminding me of my beloved. Linda remained there, tethered day and night to the black cat, while Casara was reduced to a mere stuffed kitten due to his annoying whiskers. Naruto sighed. He smiled. Well, at least I'm loved now. That's perfect. Casara murmurs in her kitten's sleep, and they purr. Noir expressed his affection for Naruto Kitty, stating, "You are so adorable." As she lay on his chest, she whispered, "We love you, Naruto. So enjoy our kitten love because it's just amazing." Naruto nodded, chuckling, before both he and Casara turned their attention to Noir. Noir looked at them with wide eyes and noticed something in my whiskers. Naruto and Casara shouted in unison, "Can you talk now?" Naruto shuddered when Naejima sneaked up behind me and saw him panting on the floor. Yu sighed, deeply worried, "Why are you doing this?" Naruto picked him up and returned him to his place. Naejima sighed and turned around, smiling. "You are truly impeccable here. I mean, you really outperform the trio. You have reduced Suji. What is your next move? You are going to fight the main one?" Naruto scoffed. "No, maybe Ranjo isn't on my list and I'm already not on hers, so you can forget about it." Naejima looked a little taken aback and stood in front of him. "Wait, this is important. Could you clarify what you mean by them?" Naruto gazed at Naejima with a determined expression. "I did not participate in the group, but we engaged in a brief conversation and that was the extent of our interaction. I declined to continue, she comprehended that we were departing separately. You are free to depart so that we may proceed to the subsequent class." Naejima frowned. "Sport spoiled. Oh, and before I forget, I've heard that the Seven Fists are using an upcoming gang war to initiate Casara into their ranks. So, regardless of what the two of you discussed, I hope you're comfortable with Casara acting in this manner. She has the right to confront you for crossing her boundaries." Naruto shrugged. "If she decides to pursue me after our conversation, I will defeat her, just like I have with the other bullies." Yu smiled and followed Naruto. "You and I fight for justice and goodness in the world. Oh, by the way, how is your new training?" Naruto grimaced hard. "Jason is crazy about my final skill, but you know he smiled happily. I love the challenge and I appreciate it. I'll make sure to finish it one way or another. I just hope the second skill he has in mind isn't too hard to learn. By the way, I was wondering if you would be willing to assist me with my errands tonight. I need to deliver medicine to Kent's and Kisum patients, and Gigi has given me some free time for the night, but I'm at a loss for what to do." Naruto smiled at her and said, "I'll help you, and we can go to the carnival. It's her last night in town." Yu looked in wonder at what she would do there, and Naruto pushed her back before she hit a wall. They trained their childhood in a stolen normal society, but they still loved it. Gigi was very good about it and made sure they were happy. Even in hell, Yu laughed nervously as she turned around, blushing. "I'm sorry, but it's a great idea. I think we should definitely be leaving." Naruto nodded and they headed back to class, making sure to work hard on their studies. They may be great martial artists, but they were still teenagers who needed every opportunity they could get. That was just what I wanted them to do with their own decisions. In his mind, she was roaring with pride. Yes, I will have you all to myself. No way, Jai was telling me the truth about you needing more women. All you need is me, and I will be better than you can imagine. What I wear, so no, I can't wear anything that distracts me too much, but I want your attention to be focused on me. Just as they were about to enter their next class, the door opened and Naruto's greeting rang out. Naruto caught the knock, saw Tita smiling, threw his fist straight back, and smiled even more. Naruto smiled, shook his hand, and said, "It would be better if you stopped trying to break my writing hand." So, the arm is improving. You've already completed 300 repetitions. Akita smiled normally, his gaze shifting to his left hand. Asum is a great doctor. He told me that after the next 100 painful crunches tomorrow, I can start using my left fist for more intense boxing training, although I doubt it will be for anything good. Naruto scowled, leaving Miu slightly perplexed. Takeda sighed and frowned. Ragnarok isn't very kind to deserters. Whis will dispatch his thugs to assault me, and it is highly probable that he will attempt to fracture my arm once more. Naruto put a hand on Takeda's shoulder, smiling. Just trust me, all you need to do is call the dojo, and I will be there immediately. Takeda glanced at Naruto, then smiled, giving him a thumbs up and winking at him. Naruto paused and nodded as Naojima reviewed his information. Given your recent victory over Suji, it's crucial that you exercise caution. It appears that the gang is also targeting you, but they are still in the planning stages. Naruto has resumed his walking, thank you. I'm confident that Takeda can take care of himself now that his arm is in shape again. However, if he is unable to reach me, or if he requires my assistance in any other way, as I previously stated, the only way to confront them directly is if they approach me. As soon as Naruto and I left the place, he smiled, clicking sub and reviewing his plans. The Ninera regiment is about to commence. Hopefully, everything will proceed according to my plan. My goal is to rule the world by the end of school. Miu laughed into her hand as she gazed at Naruto. Naruto smiled shyly, rubbing the back of his neck. I found myself as usual, but I sincerely apologize for the recent fights and my absence. Unfortunately for me, the luck with these fights turns out to be tougher than I thought. But don't worry, you and I will stick together from now on. Naruto smiled as he followed him, both of them running at full speed back to the dojo. He returned, chuckling as he opened the door. Miu, huffing but smiling, bowed before they entered. Naruto smiled and bowed. Shigure-sensei, I see. Back from collecting swords, you were lucky. Shigure nodded slightly and bowed. For your training, I will be the one to help you overcome your obstacles, Naruto said. After pondering for a moment, Naruto realized that the old man could benefit from his assistance. Boy, your training in the last say technique is taking a little time. Why not bring someone to help us? You know how to complete the last level, but it seems that you can't do it. Naruto sighed deeply, but he bowed. I'm sorry, Jiji Shigure. I left my body in your hands. The old man nodded and walked away. Don't kill him, Shigure. But be careful, because he may have the necessary ability to be on par with anything you choose to attack. Naruto glanced at the elderly man, who merely chuckled and blinked before gathering his chain, scythe, and ball, and preparing to assume a ready stance. Naruto nodded. He got into stance and activated his Rukin, his ultimate technique. Shigure roared and threw his scythe at Naruto, and in slow motion, he was about to cut him when he moved just wide, and the scythe passed without even touching, and he watched her pull it back and throw the ball flowed and turned his body making Esquite miss him again, but bending towards back to make the ball go over, and used his arm to lift the chain, and sank quickly when 3 shuriken almost hit. Then where he last was, Shigure took everything back and swung the scythe in his hand. Not bad. She hung the ball around her neck and grabbed her many shiren and some balls of smoke. Try this. She threw the smoke down and then her shuriken, and as it covered Naruto he couldn't see properly, but he slid under the shuriken, but when Shigure was on him, he turned. Shigure slid behind her as she attempted to attack him, leaping onto his swinging chain and ball, then rolling in the air and evading his swift elbow to the neck. It was akin to a dance, an artful performance between the two. Shigure maintained the momentum by drawing nearer to Naruto, who was suddenly swinging around her like a shadow. Despite her speed, she struck him in the stomach, causing only a minor scratch. However, that kick proved to be the deciding factor in his defeat. The second kick, which struck his chin and threw him back and forth across the ground, proved to be the decisive factor in his defeat. Naruto growled, rubbing his chin, and delivered a personal message. Never attempt to match the speed of a sensei. Shigure extended a hand, and she smiled, accepting it and getting up before they bowed for the remainder of the day. Jiji, Naruto and I are going to the carnival. I hope you don't mind, the old man humming and brushing his beard before smiling. Many things have the potential to go wrong. Miyuka approaches it happily before getting dressed for the night, having a perfect idea for surprise Naruto tonight. Kasei Akasum, Sakaki Shigure, and even elder head Bride Naruto gulped as the old man approached him. Treat her well, or the training will kill you. If she comes back hurt or upset, I will kill you. Special lady. So keep in mind his need for attention and how Naruto nodded, grinning, as he rose to his feet and started putting on his clothes. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you later. As he departed, the elf old man hummed, disappointed. His attention and help him like this. To gain the eye, you need two things. A warrior spirit that is developed over the years and an always caring and loving heart. He needs to find love. That's all. Sensei sighed at this, according to what I know. Mew is going to be selfish with this, but if I know Naruto well enough to realize what it takes, I can convince her to allow him to be with more than just her, besides his own needs that need satisfaction in their own right for love. After that fell into silence, and everyone went about their business, however. Sensei looked up at the sky instead of looking at his magazine. Love will find a way. Well, I hope so, because Naruto is like another son to me. I can't allow him to take the path of Asura by lack of love. I will do everything I can to bring love for him. Even if I have to fight the old man to do it, Sensei simply continued reading his magazine and knew from the old man's ears that he had been heard. But he didn't even flinch. He was in the hallway going for a walk when he heard it and smiled very well. If it is necessary to do it, then I will gladly accept your wishes. He is also like a grandson to me. I will not allow him to just walk the wrong way because of my selfishness. Shigure was in her room, shedding her clothes before sitting before her Buddha, the one that Akasum built for her just to pray. She looked at him and raised her hands. She prayed that my heart finds a path that accepts my goals. She took a deep breath before bowing and praying once again in her mind. She soon got up and grabbed her sword in bed, her shuriken and tonfa, and dressed around her in a black kunoichi outfit, painting her face and neck black and being completely covered in black. I will help. Naruto came out dressed casually for a night out. Only an orange shirt and a black jacket, along with his black pants, were visible when he saw Miu outside the door. Only part of her side was visible, and he wondered why when Miu turned around and was completely uncovered. If Naruto were a normal hot-blooded man who hasn't been around me for that long, and if we add to that the fact that his current impassive and unfazed attitude from the training shown in his daily life would be thrown into the damn hallway unconscious from the training shown in his daily life would be thrown into the damn hallway unconscious by the glow radiation coming from Miu. She was dressed to impress very incredibly in a low-cut blue shirt that hugged her shape and blue jeans that hugged her hips that she bought the other day for a night like this, and her usual short pink mini jacket attracted a lot of attention, but Naruto was not surprised. For the above reasons, he was not a normal hot-blooded man, and he did know Miu for a long time, so his current attitude about himself helped keep him standing, not to say he wasn't very impressed. Wide-eyed and whistling a little at seeing this, he had to restart his brain. After a minute, he smiled, walking up to her and offering her his arm. Let's go, okay? Miu grabbed his arm, laughing while she was happy that he was impressed, and they walked towards the carnival, hoping it would be good. Currently, she was planning the event, trying to figure out what Naruto would enjoy doing and what would help her win his heart. He learned from a reputable book that successful relationships necessitate a smooth first date with your partner. Even if things don't go as planned, as long as you and your partner remain in agreement, there's still potential for a positive relationship. He watched as Miu approached the huge cat toys lined up, as well as the prizes that were to be won. He approached and smiled. I would like to try one of the giant cat toys. The man behind the counter smiled. Naruto sees the goal, throws 3 balls, and tries to score. At the target, she told Naruto that she needed all 3 on the bullseye to win the cat of her choice. Naruto picked up the balls and reminisced about her throwing training with Shigure. As she stood on a shadow-covered light pole, observing him from above, she realized that she had outperformed me in that training. Naruto proceeded to toss the first ball, which landed perfectly in the center. He confidently tossed the second ball, expecting her to be impressed. She blushed. She turned around and threw the ball over her shoulder. Miu took a break from looking at the toys when Naruto approached, and she felt a little disappointed. He was the one working to make her happy, not the other way around. The ball struck the side of the central hole, rolled around it, and nearly rolled towards the other holes nearby, but he paused and gracefully fell in the middle, grinning. Hearing that, Miu smiled and pointed to a golden fur and blue beads. Her eyes and held him in her arms. She smiled and held him because the color of the fur and the color of the eyes matched Naruto's hair and eyes, and that's why he meant everything to her. He was like Naruto. Observing him, she noticed that he was silently looking around without understanding. She had read that if a date is moving slowly and the person you're trying to be with doesn't seem to be enjoying themselves, it's important to be assertive and take them to something more enjoyable. So, she grabbed his arm and said, "Come on, push it slowly. Let's go see the tornado." The room was spacious, with padded walls and belts encircling it, resembling a top. Naruto was eager to give the toy to the person operating the ride, so they both sat side by side and strapped themselves in. Mu blushed as she saw Naruto looking around a little, and with a slight amazement, she took his hand in hers, smiling as he looked down at her and smiled back. The journey began slowly at first, but soon it took a lot. Speed and the wind hit them, it was like a little girl recapturing her childhood and screaming with joy as Naruto smiled and squeezed her hand in his. It felt good knowing that she was having fun and that she enjoyed the trip just for the fact that she was having a lot of fun. They got off and she was incredibly excited. She grabbed her toy and pulled Naruto. Shigeru was filled with excitement as she observed Mio and Naruto enjoying themselves on simple rides, a sight that filled her with jealousy. She placed her hand over her heart as she watched Mio and Naruto engage in activities such as riding fire trucks, grabbing cotton candy, and even enjoying an Iceman ride on a track. As Naruto gradually emerged from his shell, he maintained his poise, a quality they had instilled in him. Naruto and Mio came from the haunted house. Laughing at those Gurides, we've witnessed more terrifying sights in Apachai, and it's quite a squishy place. Naruto laughed lightly, understanding we need to get back to the dojo. I bet Tu is wondering if we're okay. He led Mew through the last of the carnival. When Mew stopped him, frowning while holding her cat toy, he looked baffled. Come on, you are not fond of the cat toy. I will be delighted to provide you with an alternative item. Mew clutched her toy more tightly, her expression betraying her sorrow. That's not all. I am truly enamored with it. However, you have yet to receive anything. I would be delighted to procure something for you. Naruto initially appeared perplexed, but he eventually smiled softly. Okay, let's continue to search for something, but it is not essential. I'm fine, Mew, and he strolled around, searching for items he liked. She pointed out some interesting t-shirts, but he didn't find the designs particularly appropriate for him. He knew she wanted him to have something he could enjoy for a long time, and he found it. She stepped forward with the largest variety of items. A woman behind a large counter repeatedly offered them customized items, ranging from tattoos to temporary ones, t-shirts, photographs to statues, jewelry to pins. Mew and Naruto approached the counter, while Naruto contemplated his options. Looking around, he found something he liked well, it was a yin-yang. But he smiled and asked Mrs. Oi, do you know the one in yin-yang, the three-sided one? The lady hummed and thought about it before smiling. Yes, black, white and green, that's good, whatever design you want, we will make it for you instantly, just win 10 times in a row. Mew paid the woman, and they gave her 10 rings, and she saw well some were more long, but there were 10 red ones that were a little small. The game was simple, get the rings of the red ones to win the grand prize, a quality item. She would do her best. She threw the first 2 at one of the red rings, making it easy. She threw both, following the highest one a little wobbly at first, but they stayed. The next 4 were quite close to falling, but managed to stay on the next 2. Red poles, only the last 2 rings were missing. Mew launched the first, watching him a little low for comfort. It was a little tiring watching him move a little near the end, but he stayed. He concentrated hard. This is for Naruto, please Kami-sama, let me win. Let me bring my love a prize that he will love because I love him, please let may fate be on my side. She threw the ring, concentrating on being easy and precise. The ring hooked onto the other, and both wobbled, but the other pulled it and put it back on. It was exhausting watching the slow movement of the rings moving everywhere before about what they settled, and it was the 10th victory in a row. Mew applauded. Yes, I did it. Naruto smiled, seeing her so excited to do that. To tell the truth, he didn't expect her to do it. She wasn't very precise with the shuriken, and he had to admit it was a little crazy to do that kind of thing. Just to make the best article, raised his hand to the woman who was singing victory and hitting the gong. The design I asked about, and make it on a necklace please. Emerald, onyx and crystal quartz for the color variants of the design, in a silver casing and chain, since I wanted it to be a pendant. The woman carefully considered the necessary materials. She smiled and said, I think we have all that, but it will take about 5 minutes here. Naruto hummed while looking at the menu. Give me some beef ramen and 2 bowls. Mew lifted a finger and a plate of chicken, and they began to work together. Mew looked at Naruto with a smile, then asked, what are the different stones for? Naruto returned. Naruto chose the emerald smile for its wisdom and reason, along with its attributes of faith, love, and joy, onyx for its protective qualities, and quartz crystal for its rejuvenating and instinct-boosting qualities. Lastly, silver is a good conductor to help the properties of the 3 stones flow with each other and has a cleaning capacity, in addition to energizing my patience and perseverance. Mew seemed amazed to know all that. Akasam's books, right? Naruto smiled. Yes, he told me many things when I was bored. I even learned about Li Yin Yang that way anyway. Thank you. However, as I said, it was not necessary, and it was not necessary to go as far as to get the best quality award. As she brought her cat toy closer, Mew blushed and smiled. Of course, if you got me this, it's only fair that I also do the best I can for you. She wanted to hit herself for not being able to say the 3 words, but the truth is that she didn't know if she should do it, considering how Naruto is. Naruto and Mew took their bowls and began to eat, and that first bite for Naruto was sweet, but he smiled. He revealed the broth noodles, which were never going to be as good as the ones Mew cooked, but he wouldn't be rude enough to tell the two who they handed out the bowl. After they both finished, they returned to the stand, and the woman was there smiling. Well, we promised 5 minutes. She left the newest ones who came in waiting to try their luck. As she went in the back, it was another minute before she came back and presented the Naruto pendant. He held it a little and smiled, watching the green flow behind the white flow behind the black, and the black flow behind the green in a complete flow. The silver he requested, connected to a silver chain for his neck, stood out among the gems, and he proudly displayed it before expressing his gratitude to the woman and departing with me. Thank you very much, so I'll return you home. Do you think I can train a little more tonight before going to bed? Mew smiled as he looked into Naruto's anxious eyes. I think so, but I highly doubt he's going to train at this rate. They returned almost at 11 and saw that there was no one waiting. Naruto wondered if they were too busy or didn't care enough to wait at the door so late, and he felt a sense of impending death as the doors closed behind them, revealing the teachers and even the elderly man behind them. Naruto's sweat fell, and he laughed nervously. Noticed that she was wearing a pendant with various stones set in a silver casing, and that Mew was holding a large stuffed cat toy that reminded her of Naruto. He smiled, turned off his kai, and began to walk back, passing Naruto and Mew Sakaki first, then patting him on the shoulder. Kasei is next. Well done, boy. I can't say I'm not surprised here. He bowed a little. It seems you remembered the properties of gemstones, and I hope you don't lose them. She must have worked hard to get them while Shigeru simply nodded in her direction. Eller smiled and spoke, but Naruto heard one sentence and said, good job, boy. You made her very happy. Keep doing it. Do you want Mew? I'm glad you two got along well, but remember, he needs more love, as I'm sure you've noticed. Mew frowned a little and nodded, and Naruto noticed this, nodding to the elder and smiling. The elder departed, and she sang a melody. Mew turned to Naruto and took a deep breath. Naruto, I had a great time tonight. Sleep well, and I hope breakfast is to your liking tomorrow. Also, I really care about you a lot. She bit her lip but smiled, blushing intensely, before hugging him tightly and flying to his room. Naruto sighed however, he always smiled and tried to train before going to bed, but he couldn't and the new day was approaching, so he simply went to sleep and held his pendant in his hand. When I wake up, I'll feel even better thanks to this award from Uomic Shigeru's training specialty. Shigeru hit the hammer, not literally, of course, but it hit his weapon, but Naruto made his staff fly and catch the block before swinging it. The upper end flew towards Shigeru, and the lower end swung next to his leg, using all his strength to knock down her own attack. Shigeru caught the staff in her chain, causing it to stop, but not before she moved to the side and used her momentum to hit Naruto's cheek, causing him to fly back and hit the doll. A few meters away, Shigeru saw Naruto get up, rub his now red cheek, and spit out a tooth, which will grow back. Akasum sighed, smiling, wondering how it is possible to lose 50 teeth and still grow them back in a week. Shigeru threw Sun Nunshuku at Akasum. Typically, when a fighter employs both weapons and fists, they must select their preferred method. Naruto nodded in understanding. I understand the difference between using a weapon and a fist. As a rare species, I plan to use both. Shigeru smiled slightly, suggesting that you should select only a few weapons to use. Which ones? Naruto thought about all the properties so far, and smiled. Double Nunshuku, together, can form 2 short sticks or a medium staff. That way, I can have more options in a fight. I don't want to kill anyone, but I guess that's a bit for any real need for a weapon, so I can cut something, but not kill my opponent. Shigeru smiled and nodded, saying, I will make your weapons for tomorrow. Naruto smiled, excited that he finally had a weapon. However, he immediately hugged Shigeru, blushing briefly. I will prepare your weapons for tomorrow. So he should earn 3 times more than my weapons, because for every Dan of a weapons master, you need to be a 3 Dan master of the first to match. I guess I can handle that, and I can be sure that you and the others will train me. Consequently, everyone reached a consensus, and Naruto commenced his concurrent training with Shigeru and the others. This concludes this section. I look forward to seeing you in my next video.